Welcome to our September board meeting. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Town Clerk Greer, would you please take roll call?
Sure will. Mike Ferrara.
Here.
Doug Avery.
Here.
John Dyson. Here. Steve Churchill.
Here.
Dave DeLaylis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? And I'd like to dedicate our moment of silence to all the victims and survivors of 9/11 as we will be celebrating, or not celebrating, I should say, we'll be recognizing the 20th anniversary of 9/11 on Saturday. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We have multiple petitioners tonight, and possibly privilege of the floor. Again, I ask you to be respectful of the time limits. I'll never have a stopwatch on you, but please tonight be respectful. It just makes for a long meeting even longer. Okay, our first petitioner. Please, when you come to the podium, please state your address. Our first petitioner is Randy Rogers, talking about flooding and damages. Randy? Yeah.
Just stop me cool water and where you live.
My name is Brandy Rogers. This is my husband, Justin Rogers. We live at 37 Miller Street in Seneca Falls. We're here today because we've been working with Mike. He's been very kind to us. 4 years ago, there was some damage done, and our house was flooded. Joe was kind enough to put a little sump pump in there, but sadly, that's like putting bandage on something that needs stitches. So I've been working with Mike, and he asked me to come here tonight so we can develop an action plan so I can get some deadlines to when this problem is going to be fixed. I have damages in my house. Thousands of dollars worth of appliances have been ruined that my homeowner's insurance is not covering, and it has been found that the city, there's been a little negligence over the past 4 years. So I'm here tonight. I'd like some answers to when this is going to be resolved and who's going to be paying for it.
Brandy's in a unique situation, as well as another petitioner tonight from 38 Miller Street. One of our drainage lines drains Ridge Street, in Pleasant Street, in Chapel, in Chestnut, and eventually Oak, down the Oak, I should say, underneath the railroad on Oak Street, and then in the backyard of the next petitioner, so Jessica Lambert, who will be speaking tonight, and then goes across the street into Brandy and Justin's, and then across the back of their yard and into the eventually the canal. Okay, so it's our drainage line, not able to keep up with obviously the type of weather that we had, and so Peter here tonight. Yeah. So Peter and I and Jim, during the storm, we visited many bad sites, and so I've asked Peter to start taking a look at some things, and we're working on some suggestions, but we need to fix things, especially in some of these areas that we're talking about 100-year-old piping and so forth. So Randy, as I said, this is a process. I apologize, okay? I'm hoping that we can get some direction tonight and some board approval to start moving forward. In December, we're going to have to make a decision about remaining landfill revenue that is not budgeted yet or not allocated. And I'm going to strongly suggest that we start putting some resources into storm sewers or storm drain lines. Type of thing. A lot of our resources go to water and sewer. we really need to start addressing some of these issues. I strongly believe that this is not, once in a lifetime experience. I'm a big believer in science. I'm a big believer in climate change. And I think this is going to happen more often than not. If it happens one more time to any homeowner, that's not a good thing, okay? I was in basements with 7, 8 feet of water. I was in basements where raw sewage was in their basement. I was in basements where people lost their furnace, et cetera, et cetera. So it's time that we stop kicking the can down the road, and it's time that we start doing some action.
Mike, might I just say, I know that that's something you just walked into this 2 years ago, but I want to make it known that this isn't something that is new due to the storm. This started 4 years ago when the city
And
had...
every time it rains, we get water in our basement, not just a storm of the century.
Right, I mean, this is an ongoing issue that has started 4 years ago when there was some road work and pipes done. So again, I understand with a storm, a little water is fine, but we had over 4 feet of water that had to be pumped out, and this is an issue that the city has been made aware of more than 4 years ago. And every year when I call, when this happens, I get told we're working on it. And 4 years ago, I was annoyed, but I was patient. At this point, I'm angry. I'm angry and I want resolution. And I have no furnace that was just replaced in January, no washer, no dryer, freezers, generators, my entire basement. Thousands of dollars of appliances are lost, and I have to fix those. And we're coming into winter, and I have to put a new furnace in. So again, I'm thankful that you're just made aware of it and you're taking action, but time is something that I'm not willing to be overly patient with anymore. It's been 4 years.
If I was you, I wouldn't be very patient either.
Thank you.
I completely understand your position that we talked on numerous occasions, and I wouldn't be patient either, and I'd be very angry. So you don't have to apologize for your anger, okay? I can only tell you that I'm going to do my best to fix the problem as soon as I possibly can after we hear Peter tonight and some suggestions, okay? I've tried to put out to the community the best I can. I did a newspaper article, I did a code red announcement, it's on our website. I'm working with the county. If any resident has suffered damage due to the storm in the middle of August, please contact Melissa Taylor at the county level, and she's trying to collect data and trying to come up with idea of how much loss there was due to the storm. And from there, she can take it to the federal government through FEMA and declare this area a disaster zone for the storm. And then there'll be some valuable funds that way also. But I need people to contact her. She is the director of the 911 Center and Emergency Services at the county level. Her name is Melissa Taylor. And if you go to our website, her contact information is on there, her phone number, as well as her email address. Her email address is mtaylor at co.seneca.newyork.us.
Brandy, I can tell you 4 years ago I had water damage, and I had this last one, and the adjuster told me, well, get flood insurance, get more insurance. So I called Nationwide, and right now I just had to pay $467 up front for insurance, and this happens again to me. I figured it's worth it. It comes out $38 a month. I told my wife to bite the bullet and do it. But check into that too, because I mean, I got hit, and I got hit 4 years ago, and I just hit now, and I said, that's it. And the adjuster was kind of like, well, we can't do nothing. Okay, what can I do? Well, then I'll pay the extra $467 for the year or two. And lo and behold, they got a grace period. It doesn't start until September 10th to insurance. I just got the policy today in the mail, but it starts, so I hope we don't get another rainstorm before September 10th.
And what am I?
Because it cost me $4,500 last time, and probably about $6,000 this time.
What are we supposed to do about selling our home? Like our plant, we're putting it on the market. I can't, like potential people, you can't hide that from them, but knowing that a basement floods due to an error in a pipe, it's
Nobody's gonna buy it.
negligent. No one's gonna buy my house knowing that it's a water flaw that comes in every time it rains.
And I worked with the guy that we had bought the house from. He never had
We
water
never had,
in
and
his
we
house.
never had problems when we bought the house.
Never had water in the basement.
The problem is what are we supposed to do about selling our house? Am I supposed to just sit
Randy,
and
I'm
wait?
confident that your situation is a little bit easier to deal with than the complete infrastructure throughout the town. The infrastructure in the town is a much more complicated situation because there's sewer lines and storm lines are conflicted with each other, and unfortunately a large number of people are illegally hooked up, so their storm water goes directly into the sewer line, so you have that volume of water at the time when it rains so hard, which is a major problem for the system. One of the reasons why our equalization tank is going to be replaced is to help that. To reline more sewer lines in the town needs to be done as well. So that's a little different. I mean, those are issues obviously, but I think I can't speak for Peter, but I think Peter is a smart man and he's going to have some ideas. Jim has some ideas how we can take care of this and your neighbor across the street sooner than later. Okay?
Come back next month.
I will be in contact.
Okay.
Can this forum make a decision?
Like, are you, so we're not gonna get any answers as to any timelines? It's when I can hear back from you. It's just kind of like,
Peter, can
I don't wanna feel
give
rushed
this
off because I have been for 4
family
years.
An answer
Well,
tonight?
Yeah, so what I have for the board, I'll hand it out, basically just, we went out the day of, it was August 19th. Since then, we looked at 3738 Muller Street, but we were looking at areas around. So I've got a memo, just, it's a high level, here's the town as a whole, what the issues are. Certainly on Miller Street, and Mike, you did a good job describing it, there's, and one of the lines, actually line behind 38, is, that's not, we had no mapping. So there's old infrastructure that there's very limited mapping on. The line that we saw on 38 that leads across the street, that we have no record of that line. The bottom line is, these are old village pipes that are on private lines, private properties rather. There's no easement, there's really no way. So our focus is really gonna be is, what can we do to kind of open that system up, because it looks like some of those lines are blocked. But that's the big picture, let's divert it. So we gotta get that north-south block, it runs from Chestnut Oak to Miller Street, and then behind Miller Street. It's old village infrastructure, probably dates 19th century. Some of those lines, I think, are, that just needs to be diverted, you know, so we need to complete, there's diversion that needs to happen down Chestnut, down Miller, and down Oak Street, basically, to kind of keep water from flowing through there. I mean, that upsizing the pipe are all great things, but that's the reality of trying to access those lines for the town to maintain. It's really nothing, because right now, legally, administratively, the town is, that the lines are on private property too. So I think there's technical, there's administrative issues. We're gonna focus on diverting that particular section, west of Rumsey, east of Walnut, and eliminate those areas. So those three locations are all located kind of in a bowl, the low-lying areas, but we gotta look harder at being able to kind of get diverted from there, so. So I've got, I do have the process, I can talk, you know, that we can jump on immediately, but it's, the full fix involves, it's conceptualized to design, bidding, construction, it's nothing that can happen, you know, but if there's things that the town highway department can do, we'll advocate for that, but we need to determine what, you know, how big a project we have right now.
Okay.
I understand that the pipes were old, but a lot of this started right after the fire hydrant was being run into the pipe for almost a month. That was done by the town.
Our road was dug up and they flushed fire
This isn't
hydrants.
just an old pipe.
Right, and excuse me, I'm a nurse, I don't know anything about, I'm not an engineer, but it seems to me we weren't having problems for years, and then they dug up the road and then they flushed all the fire hydrants down, and that's what,
The hose
pipe
was
runs the
running
length of our,
into
the
the
hose
drain.
was just running in, and that's what kind of broke the pipe, is what we were told, because they did dye tests, they did video surveillance. So it wasn't just that it's an old pipe, it's just that there was damage done by the city when they flush those fire hydrants down the storm drain, which is what we were told they weren't supposed to have done, but they did, and now we have the problem.
I don't know the answer to that. My guess is because when you're flushing a fire hydrant, you're talking about a large volume of water. And the fire hydrants have to be flushed because, again, we're talking about an infrastructure problem with water to that part of the town as far as flow, okay? But there's such a large volume of water when you flush a hydrant that simulates more or less a bad storm that we had. You're talking about inches of water in a very quick period of time. You know what I'm saying? Not like it's just a general rain. So if they're flushing a hydrant, it's coming out pretty good, right?
No, it wasn't.
Not well. Okay.
There's a leak in the pipe from the road to the next manhole. That's all. It wasn't, that leak was not caused by the hydrant running.
Okay, because it started
Who knows what it's
right
caused
after.
by?
The leak is
100-year-old
there.
pipe could be caused by a truck going down
The
the
leak
street.
is there, and we have to fix the leak in the pipe next to their house.
So I will, again, I'm on it, all right?
Okay,
Do the very best I can.
thank you, and I appreciate
I
it.
won't, I guarantee you won't have to come back in 4 years and complain.
I hope not, because I
I
want to
won't be
sell my
sitting
house.
here, but I guarantee you won't have to
Like,
come back
this
in
is kind
4
of throwing a
years
wrench in that.
to complain, okay?
Okay. And now what about the damages you told me to bring up at the board meeting?
As
You
I
said
said,
keep track of the
Contact
cost of my
me.
washer, my dryer, stuff like that.
As I said to you, you need to submit to me your damages.
Okay.
Okay? Then I need to submit it to our insurance company, okay? And then we'll go from there.
Okay, I'll call you
Why
tomorrow.
did we submit it to our insurance company?
Why would we?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have damage. We can't pay for every single person who has damage to their.
Well, again, if it's the determination that this is a pipe that's broken on the back of their house and on the side of their house,
It's our pipe.
okay? I don't know, if the insurance company will say, no, we don't, that's not something we will deal with, then hopefully FEMA will be with a disaster area with FEMA, or then the board's gonna have to make a decision. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer, okay? There's no, I agree, you don't want, I mean, some people who have problems during the storm, I'm not being critical, but some people who had problems during the storm, it's because their drain system is hooked up illegally. And we have no laws on the books that can make the water and sewer department go into people's houses and check on their houses, okay? There are businesses downtown where the roof drains are directly connected into the storm sewer, or the sewer line. There are industries on Fall Street, same way, okay? The only way we can check now, if Mike Ferrara sells his house, water and sewer can come in and do an inspection, let the buyer beware. Mike Ferrara, you gotta fix it, or whoever's buying your house has gotta fix it, okay? But there is nothing in place at the moment. So this is a little different. They don't have a floor drain, okay? An illegal drain in their basement type of thing.
Randy, make sure you call too. Because I called in, Mike was talking about the FEMA. They told me when I called in, I told them like $6,000 damage. They're gathering all that information for everybody, and they said, we'll get back to you if you get it, or they can give you a low interest loan. That was the second option. They said if they can give you X amount of dollars, or we can give you a low interest loan for damages.
Okay, well, thank you, I
As
appreciate
best I
that.
can tell, that's what they told me.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
thank
for
you.
coming.
Let's hear from Jessica, but we've got to, Peter's solutions are going to take months. There's got to be something we can do to protect these two houses.
Well, I
Maybe
think,
it's something temporary.
I think it would require probably a sit down with yourself and me and Peter and Jim, and being on that committee and trying to come up with a quick solution.
Because they can't. I don't think they can. I don't know what Jessica's going to say, but I don't think they can wait for what. Peter's got the long-term solution in place, but by the time that all those processes take place, you know, that's not going to help these people if there's another storm like this next week.
I agree. Jessica?
First day. First day of spring night. It was a trip. My name is Jessica Lambert. I live at 38 Miller Street. I guess I'm just going to piggyback off of what Brandy said and what the board has said. Except I'm going to go a little bit further. My great aunt lived in the house before I did. And this happened once to her, probably about 15 plus years ago. So when I called the water department on Tuesday to let them know at around 1 o'clock, 1:30, the backyard had completely flooded. They sent a couple people over. One town employee said, "Oh yeah, this happened before." Didn't even walk out to the manhole where there was a fountain of water coming out near the near the storm drain. The other employee did go out to at least take a look. But the original, who had seen it before, said that they had tried to snake it and there were too many roots. So while I can appreciate it takes some time to fix things, we've got 15 years of at least knowing that that drain pipe had issues. Thankfully and luckily, it hasn't happened again until 2 or 3 weeks ago, however long it was. But the 17th, my backyard flooded twice. The first time was not as severe as the second time. I sent everyone pictures and videos. I have them here if you would like to see them. And the second time it flooded, it came down the driveway and over towards my neighbor on 40 Miller Street. Fast forward to about 4:20 in the morning when I woke up, looked at my security camera, the whole backyard was flooded. 40 was flooded. Went downstairs, my basement was flooded. I'm lucky that my basement was not flooded as bad as 37 and 40, but my sump pump ran for hours and hours and hours and hours. And my concern is the foundation on the majority of my home is probably from when the pipe was put in. In 1907 is the first deed I have. It's an old stone mortar foundation. What is all of this water doing to that foundation? Is the next time this happens, my basement wall going to concave? I have concerns about that. This is my home. This is where I raised my daughter. I'm a teaching assistant at Frank Knight. I don't make a ton of money. I can't afford for that type of tragedy to happen at my house. So I need some sort of fix so that I can literally sleep at night if I know it's gonna rain. Because right now, I watch the radar and I stay up at night and I watch my backyard, I watch my basement, I walk out to the backyard to check on the storm drain. I can't function like a normal human being at this point because I'm concerned about what's gonna happen next. And I don't even have any control if it does start to flood.
And again, I am sorry for your troubles and your hardship, and we've talked on numerous occasions, and I'm sure you were doing whatever we can as quickly as we possibly can. Okay? And I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but people have to understand, you you just can't snap your fingers and change something that's been a problem for a very, very long time.
I understand that, but
If it's going to be fixed, it's got to be fixed properly. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
And it takes resources, and it takes time, and I assure you that we're on top of it. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Susan?
My name is Susan Porter. I live at 78 Hugo Street. I've lived in Seneca Falls for 25 years. I'll be brief because I know you have a long, involved agenda. I, as the board knows, was asked to sit on the budget committee. There was a bit of a kerfluffle the last week or two about that. I just wanted to alert the board that the budget committee as a foursome did respond to the mailing that Kyle Black distributed to town residents. If you haven't had a chance to read it, you can read it online on the Finger Lakes Times or find it on Facebook. And I'm just here to just ask the board to try and not take the political bait, so to speak. We put some time and effort into trying to take a look at the budget, and if anybody wants to call me or email me and sit down person to person, if you have questions, I would be more than happy to meet with you. My email is scporter1@verizon.net. I have a binder this big, and I know as the budget season comes, there will be questions, and I just would like the work that we did to not be in vain, and I feel myself to be a little better educated, and if that can happen for others, I'm more than willing to be a conduit for that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Susan. And again, thank you to you and Brad for your work up to this point on the Finance Committee, or the Budget Committee, I should say. Mike, we don't have a microphone anymore?
We never had.
Never had a microphone?
Over there?
There is one,
Oh,
but
there is one, but it's
but
work.
we've never used it.
Never
I don't know
used
if it's for recording court or something like that, but it's never.
Got it.
We should.
Mr. Kelsey here tonight?
Go get him.
Good evening.
I've been here a few times, and I always ask what happened when we were taxed at 3%, we went to 9%. Then I got the old saying, well, Seneca Meadows didn't give us any money. It was on Reserve's desk, they gave us the money. We're going to do something with the water department or something, make a new sewer line. That was a lie, we did nothing. But I have to give Mr. Farrar credit. When I asked him last time I was here, he gave me an answer. We just got rid of it. Spent it away. Who cares? It's gone. Well, we're still at 9%. We never got our money back. And that kind of makes me mad. And I got the letter of truth, it's called in town, from Mr. Black. And a lot of that letter, it's the truth. If Seneca Meadows wants to give us another $6 million, take it. The DEC is the only one who's going to shut that dump down. They're not going to shut it down. I see your lawsuit in the paper. You lost, you lost, you lost. It's, let's be practical about it. Is there anybody on the board who has a doctor's or master's in economics?
I don't.
No.
You do have a doctor's?
I can't even spell economics.
It's hard for me too. But we should hire somebody to take care. We're dealing millions of dollars. Millions. And I only have a high school education. Probably some of you only have high school. There should be a professional in here. I worked for Goof Funk for 47 years, and we only make 20% of the product because they outsource. They take your water department, outsource it. Take this, outsource it. And it doesn't mean people lose their job. Company will come in, watch who's working, who isn't, and get rid of the other way. And also, they collect money for their insurances and whatnot. Insurance is a killer. Anybody here knows they pay insurance. Like, I worked for 47 years for Ghouls, and they give me $2,200. Go find your insurance. And it's terrible because anything happens to you, you're going to be paying a lot more than $2,200. And to make it short, before the storm came, my basement would never floods because I'm up high. Flooded. I had to call the fire department. But 15, 20 minutes later, I happened to look out my house and the street was flooded. It's over the sidewalk. So, I called the clerk, town clerk. She called the police. And this girl police officer came down and says, I'll report it, but there ain't nothing we can do about it. And it disappeared within 5-10 minutes, gone. Because they have a big sewer drain right in front of the house in the town. But something just exploded, went up and through the pipes, and then disappeared. Got the whole road, 5 and 20 was soaked, sidewalks were soaked, in 10 minutes, gone. So I don't know what's happened there. But like I say, you should start looking for somebody really, really professional to look at these taxes. And to look, because you guys are all nice guys. I've not got anything against anyone here. But we're dealing with millions of dollars. And there might be a professional to say, get rid of this, get rid of this, keep this, keep that. So you never know until you find out.
Thank you for coming. And we're in the midst of a study, okay? Which is looking at all different aspects of the operation of the town. So hopefully we'll get a report on that within the next, for our October meeting.
I'm not downgrading you guys or anything.
No.
You try your best.
Absolutely.
But, you know, we can't just keep raising taxes. Pretty soon ghouls will go out of here. I mean, they always talk about, when I was there, going to Texas.
Thank you. Yeah.
Valerie Sandless, I live at 2 Greenbelt Circle. And as chairwoman of the Seneca Falls Environmental Action Committee, I'm here to discuss several of our ongoing concerns regarding Seneca Meadows. First, Seneca Meadows is polluting our air and compromising the health of our community. Landfill gas migration is a major health concern. According to the New York State Department of Health, short-term exposures to landfill gases can cause irritation to the eyes, nose, throat, coughing, headache, nausea, and breathing difficulty. Multiple studies have confirmed these findings. Research published in the Journal of Epidemiology in 2016 found that these symptoms are very prominent in children. Remember, almost all of the schools in Seneca Falls and Waterloo are less than 2 miles from the landfill. SMI is endangering the health and well-being of our children. Taxes or no taxes, all of our children go to school within 3 miles and most within 2 miles of the landfill. Second, we urge you to implement a new odor reporting system. The current system continues to be an abysmal failure. Despite Seneca Meadows' claim that odor complaints are down, we all know the stench continues to pollute our community. Residents have simply gotten tired and or frustrated with Seneca Meadows inspectors denying odor claims and have stopped calling the hotline. We all know that to be true. Recently, I reported a strong, undeniable landfill odor at my home. Not surprisingly, when the SMI inspector arrived, he didn't even get out of his vehicle until I invited him to walk around the property with me, where the gassy garbage odor clearly lingered. Like I said, it was undeniable. Suffice it to say, the trained inspector was unable to detect any odor. Personal opinion, it was so strong, he is either nose blind, like many of the rest of us, and or was blatantly lying to my face, as I indicated to DEC Region 8 Director Greg McLean when I spoke with him. And this is just one example of many of the reasons that there must be an independent odor reporting system. I know that our town attorney was working with you on that. It needs to be an independent system discounting Seneca Meadows' input. Third, the recent flooding has, once again, raised our concern about the amount of leachate that Seneca Meadows generates. Our town wastewater facility processes approximately 50,000 gallons of leachate per day. That alone is cause for concern. But what happens when the unexpected amounts of rain flood the town and the landfill? It's not the landfill's fault, but all of that flooded water flooded them as well. With excessive amounts, there are over 10 runoff ponds on the landfill. I believe there are 14, but I know it's over 10, which are supposedly only released when their contaminants are at safe levels, however comforting that may be. We're concerned about the amount of contaminants that, due to recent flooding, may have seeped into the soil and groundwater from those 10+ ponds. Our host community agreement includes a drinking/groundwater monitoring and protection program. It would be wise for the town board to contact Seneca Meadows and the DEC on this matter. We shouldn't be breathing landfill gas and garbage or dealing with landfill leachate. Implement a reliable odor reporting system. Contact the DEC about soil and water testing. Demonstrate to the residents of Seneca Falls, especially our children, that you care more about us than Seneca Meadows. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
At this time, we have privilege of the floor. Anybody would like to speak?
Yes.
20 seconds.
Evening. The mic's not on, I don't think I need it. I know how to talk loud. I'm Dan Babbitt, Senior, Seneca Falls, New York. So, I don't see Mr. Black here. Chuck. So I guess I'll just have to pick on this group. The scenario is I'm going down 89. And this obvious junk truck, fairly new, quite sophisticated, probably came out of Ithaca, passed me by. Now I'm probably 15 miles away from Seneca Falls. The odor on the other side of that truck was amazing. Could not believe the level of odor that came out of that. Now, lately, for the most part, Seneca Meadows, if it's not from the trucks, they have some control of the odors. Better than they were. But when it was bad, that's what this truck smelled like. I would really like to see an effort made. I think code enforcement might be able to help. Vehicles coming in, if they smell like this or if they stick around, they should be cited. I've been at Walmart before, and it was amazing. The smell was amazing. And here's two junk trucks, just got done, and they're empty, except for the smell. I'd really like to see, and I wish Mr. Black was here because I'd point to him also.
He's walking to the door right now.
I can wait.
But your 20 seconds are up, so you can't attack.
Okay. In conclusion, and I can pick on him now that he's here.
Sorry, Kyle.
Yeah, this group, add him to it. That vehicle coming down 89, coming to the north on 89, was so bad, it was unbelievable. I would like to see
I
that.
don't doubt that it was bad. My only question, did you know where it was going?
Where else would it go?
Casella and Geneva, maybe? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know.
Okay,
I have no idea.
that's fair.
No, I'm just
But it
saying,
could
I don't
be-
know where it's going. That's all I'm saying.
I would be willing to stand up on 414 and find out.
But
If
you're
they're-
probably right. It's probably going to...
I would like to
Go
see
ahead.
Mr. Black do something about that. I'm gonna pick on everybody. When it comes in and they're like that, can it be rejected? Code says odors, light, sound emanating beyond a property line is a violation. I'm pretty sure this town could do something about it. I'm not sure what Mr. Black can do, except maybe put it in the contract, if you stink, go away. That's my request.
Thank you.
And there's supposed to be some changes made, so they don't stink.
Thanks, Dan.
Kyle,
Thank you.
Kyle, what he was saying, he was on 89 and a garbage truck passed him, figured going to your landfill.
Yes, and yes.
It stunk very bad when it passed him. That's what he was making a comment before you got here.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll give him the map, give more details, because Mr. Ferraro is correct. We don't have a lot of contracts. All the contracts that we have, everybody's supposed to use 81 to the thruway. We don't take Ithaca's waste anymore. Casella takes it. So a lot of what's coming up through 89 is actually going that way legally, because those are state routes and et cetera, et cetera. But again, I would have to have more specifics, truck ID, license plate number, then I could absolutely track and go from there.
I'll keep that in mind, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Fellow council members, Supervisor Ferrara, thank you for letting me speak. Moratoriums and the future of renewable energy. What do you know, understand? And here are some ongoing local facts. You all should be aware that there does exist a development committee working on addressing coding and safety issues. The committee members are myself, Supervisor Ferrara, Tom Scholes, Frank Ruzicka, Ann Sandroni, Jeff Wilkes, Rich Stabinsky, Deborah Van Wald, Councilor Pat Morrell, and MRB Group representatives. In my opinion, it would be a best business practice to wait until this development committee has interacted with its members and representatives of the business community to identify issues and location placements. Then, with more current information in hand, it would be a reasonable time to review your moratorium ideas. With a view toward progressiveness, the Development Committee is watching two examples, or are aware of two examples. Number one, Cornell's intent to potentially heat their campus with processed cow manure. Number two, the Cayuga County and Soil Water Community Digester case study, in which RNG Holdings, which is part of Spruce Haven Farm, has entered into a definitive agreement on May of this year for renewable natural gas through Global Common Energy, the first project being developed at this farm. The end result of the system is that it will produce electricity and hot water for the public safety building, the Cayuga Nursing Home, and other district buildings. Please note that the anaerobic digestion project on Route 414 that we're aware of is not a renewable energy production project. Instead, it is simply gas taken from a farm to this site for injection into the pipeline. That pipeline then distributes to various consumer locations. Please do not be afraid of this Route 414 project, which again is simply an injection process, not a renewable project. They are not one and the same. In summary, at the last Development Committee meeting, Supervisor Ferrara asked MRB Group to form a wording for a town code to address these types of renewable projects. Please have confidence in your planning and zoning boards to create codes and safety provisions. Thank you. And I have those excerpts, and I thank Debbie, our assessor, for the Cornell and the Cayuga County studies.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you all.
Brad?
My name is Brad Jones, 11 Courtney Drive here in Seneca Falls. First of all, Supervisor Ferrara, thank you for opening it up, privilege of the floor. I wasn't expecting to talk this evening, but I saw the concerns of people like Justin and his wife Brandy, as well as Jessica. My hat's off to this board because I firmly believe they're addressing the aged infrastructure that we have in our town and our former village. But I heard a couple phrases tonight, short-term solution. I think Doug had mentioned it, Peter working on a long-term solution. I'm here to talk to you as a concerned citizen. I also serve with Sue Porter on the Budget Committee. I'm not here to speak on the budget. I think Sue covered that quite well. What I'm here to talk about is a hidden secret. It goes back to 2013, and it has to do with leachate. Val had mentioned 50,000 gallons per day. I've seen information as high as 100,000 gallons a day. Going into this aged infrastructure we just spent a half an hour talking about. Being a concerned resident, and the number of basements we were flooded, is it just waste sewage coming in, or could it be toxic leachate? So the short-term solution to this board, as well as to people that are running for office here in the upcoming election in November, is let's turn off the valve. Even though I'm speaking to a concerned citizen, I do have privy to some of the information that goes into the water and sewer budget. The money that's coming in from SMI to treat this 50, 75, 100,000 gallons per day of leachate is going into the water and sewer budget. It has nothing to do with the general fund. So with that, it won't affect our taxes one way or the other. But I think we would all be able to sleep much better at night if we knew leachate wasn't leaking through this aged infrastructure, everything from 414 right down to our wastewater facility. This is something I would like to have everybody take it in and think about it. I'm going to say the majority, 9 out of 10 mega landfills like Seneca Meadows, they truck their leachate. And they truck it to environmentally controlled outlets that are in business to treat leachate. And I say toxic leakage via trucks. Casella doesn't send it into the Geneva wastewater system. Why should we take it? And right now, I ask this board, I ask candidates running, taking a stand on which way you want to go. It won't affect taxes at all. Let's cut off leachate today forever. It's one less worry. Nobody's making money here at the town because of accepting leachate. Chemistry. I took chemistry, and I still remember when the term toxic comes up, there's a word, reverse osmosis. And probably now that I'm speaking tonight, there'll be a pamphlet coming out from SMI in the near future saying reverse osmosis makes the water clean. It takes some chemicals out. Toxic leachate minus reverse osmosis still equals toxic leachate that is going into yours, our aged infrastructure wastewater. I'm asking, as soon as tonight, being a short time solution, for this board to take action. I looked at the agreement. I don't even know if it came in front of the full board back in 2013. Don Earl signed the agreement, but I don't know whether council or some of the board members, you may not even be aware of this agreement. But I don't think it has anything to do with the host agreement. I think it's something you could do rather quickly, cut off the leachate, make us all sleep better at night. I know for myself and my wife Debbie, we're going to look to the candidates running for office in November, and the ones that say turn off the leachate, they'll get our vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. I'm not gonna, we've always had a difference opinion about leachate, and based on all the DEC reports and engineering reports that are reviewed by our town engineer, what gets put into the system is not toxic anymore. But that's, I'm not gonna argue that point. And the other point I just wanna mention is that revenue from SMI as far as treating the leachate goes into the water and sewer budget, okay? And even though that's not a tax, if you raise water and sewer rates more, then it's costing more people more money, obviously. You can call it a tax, or you can call it it's more money to have water and sewer. But thank you for your time. Okay, I have some things that I need to go over, so please be patient with me. A lot of thank yous. I want to thank Joe Tullo, Jim Peterson, Chief Keenstra, and all of their staff for all they did during the storm crisis and after effects of the storm. It was a rough 3 days in Seneca Falls, and I'm very proud of our people who work here and the work they do that a lot of times doesn't get noticed. So I want to appreciate that. Thank you. As you know, the town had a major water break last Tuesday, October 31st. A van hit a fire hydrant on Route 89 in the town of Fayette. It is the major line, it's a 20-inch line, it's the major line that supplies water from the waste treatment plant up Parker Road, down 89 to all of us, okay? We had a very difficult time turning it off after a few hours of trying to turn it off, going to different locations. We eventually had to shut down the supply at the water treatment plant and finally isolated it, and that's why we were under a boil water advisory for 3 days, because the water treatment plant was shut down and our water supply was gone. So I appreciate your patience on that. I keep encouraging people to please sign up for our alert system, Code Red. It's a prime example of why it's so beneficial. You would know exactly what's going on, and very soon after it happened, you would be completely updated as things unfold. So again, I'm going to encourage everyone to please sign up for our Code Red alert system. Special thanks go out to Fire Chief Alan Larson and the men and women of his department for the countless hours of pumping out basements and businesses during the crisis. Over 100 basements were pumped out. Many were not due to many were not because of sewage in their basement. I'd also thank Chief Halliday from Fayette and Chief Nate Peckham, from Canoga Fire Departments, and Tom Sloan from Goulds Pumps for providing the fire department some additional pumps. These folks worked 3 days straight helping our citizens, so I want to thank them as well. I'd like to thank Missy Jones and Parks and Recreation Department for all their hard work during Canal Fest to make it a reality. Missy spent countless hours making sure that the firework display went off. It was a little complicated this year. Not a little, it was a lot complicated. And we had to secure a barge, and I want to thank publicly Sessler families for donating the barge to the town of Seneca Falls so that the fireworks could happen. What's going to happen next year, we don't know. I know the barge won't be available next year. Missy and I and Chief Keenstra and Downtown Business Association have already met after Canal Fest, and we're starting to work on some strategies to keep you updated. As I mentioned, we've had 2 petitioners here tonight. We need to start looking at drainage, but we'll wait to hear from Peter and go from there. I know there's been disagreement on this board about the Barrett Street culvert, and the disagreement was that it's not collapsing, and I think it's worth that everybody understand that the Barrett Street culvert, if it's not collapsing, it's compromised. And all the water from Sampson Creek, which drains this part of town, Garden Street area, Center Street, has to go through the Barrett Street culvert at some point to get into the canal. And if the water can't get through there quick enough, what happens is that Center Street, Benton Creek overflows. The people on Center Street at the bottom of the street get flooded out. We have 3 manholes in Benton Creek that get inundated with water. We had residents, Lieutenant Snyder, who had 8 feet of water in his backyard, okay? And further up the stream, and it all comes down to, if it's not collapsing, it's certainly compromised. And again, it's something that should get on people's agenda to fix.
I would like to just correct you if I could.
Sure, absolutely.
In that, I don't recall anybody on this board saying that it's not possibly compromised. What we do say is that it's up to the state to fix it, because if it is compromised, it's because of their mismanagement of Benton Pond.
Yep.
And they own, you know, for all intents and purposes, we think that they own the culvert.
And you're right, you're 100% right. And again, we can keep making that argument and nothing's being done. That's my only issue. And it's not fair to the people in this town who are being affected by the fact that nothing is being done. And we can go round and round with Canal Corp and the state and who's going to fix it, but we're here 2 years later and nothing's been done.
I don't think this year they took any logs out of there again this year they did last year. Are they gonna
They're not going to go inside the culvert. Nobody's going to go inside the culvert.
I got video of everything they pulled out of there last year.
I'm just saying,
they should be back again this year. There's got to be more stuff.
They could
in
put a
their
camera,
block.
they could easily put a camera in the culvert.
A camera? Well, we've done that already, haven't we?
Well, but I'm saying the state could, from their side, from the Benton Pond side, when it's lower down in the, I mean, they could make arrangements to do that. They don't have to put a diver in there. They don't have to put a human being in there.
I don't know how you clean out the culvert if you don't put somebody in there.
Well, you're not gonna clean it out when it's got water in it, and we all know it probably needs maintenance. It was built 140 years ago. But the state are the folks that need to maintain it.
Okay. So, again, I don't disagree with you, okay? But that doesn't solve the problem for our residents. That's all.
Well, perhaps we should take them to court, push them.
Okay. All right. I'd like to thank Sarah Wright, who's been running the water and sewer office, the financial office, by herself for the last 5 weeks. It's usually a 3-person job, and Sarah has been doing yeoman work, and Sarah, I want to thank you very much publicly. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, the town's website will be up and running. I want to thank Melissa Howe, my confidential secretary. She's been spearheading most of the work in conjunction with Finger Lakes One and getting the website up and running and providing the data and the information and so forth. So hopefully we'll see that. I'll let you know when that happens as soon as possible. Okay? If you haven't noticed or heard, the Ripples of Change statues are in, and they've been, they're in and placed in, and everything's all set. And somewhere down the line, there'll be a dedication ceremony. I don't know when that's going to be, but somewhere down the line, everyone will be informed of when that dedication ceremony will be, and we'll move forward from there. Remember, it's a temporary home right now. And when the DRI project is completed, the permanent home is down near People's Park, overlooking the canal, looking towards the Women's Hall of Fame.
In regards to that Ripples of Change, when you say that, because I have 2 invoices here, to the tunes of about $40,000 that we paid, but this wasn't going to cost us any money. Are we going to get reimbursed from somebody?
No.
Then why are we paying $40,000?
We're not paying $40,000. If you remember, the commission of the federal government gave its town $270,000. Then we had to set up an account to funnel that money to the vendors who we owe money to. So it's in our account, the $270,000, and that's all you're doing is signing a voucher that.
So we did get, well, that was my question.
Oh, we were paid up front.
Huh?
We were paid up front, we're not
paid up front.
We were reimbursed for these expenses, essentially.
Yeah, we have 270, from the beginning, we had $270,000.
For that Ripples of Change project.
Correct, the whole project. from the artist to the site work. Generations Bank has also provided or done site work, contributed to the site work, a new fence and part of the concrete work and so forth. So yes. Okay. And then
You know
hopefully,
how much we paid out thus far?
I do not know.
Nikki, you have any idea?
Nikki would not know. Sarah would probably, yeah, I don't know.
I don't have it on hand, but I can give it to you.
And there's going to be, hopefully, there's money left over still to make the final move to its permanent home.
Sure.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay, speaking of DRI, the clock is starting to tick, and the contracts for the public works part. So we're in a 5-year clock ticking mode right now, and as soon as in October, I'll probably be coming to you, and we're going to have to figure out an administrator for the DRI funds and all the stuff that's going to have to be done. We're talking about RFPs for design, RFPs for obviously construction. There is constant paperwork that needs to be completed on a monthly basis with the state. There's mandatory guidelines for minority women-owned businesses that have to make up 40% of the work. It's going to be a very complicated process, and I hope to have some more details in our October meeting, but that's coming up, okay? And that's all the public works projects. That's the streetscape work behind Fall Street on the north side of the canal. That's the visitor center. That's work being done at the community center. I think those are the three major places. Okay, as you probably noticed, on East Barrett Street, the old Sky Divers,
Sky Dancer.
Huh? Sky Dancer. Gas station is back open for business over the weekend. And this is being opened by the Unity Council, or the Traditionalists, the faction that does not recognize Chief Clint Halftown as their leader. They are selling cigarettes at the moment. They plan on opening with the gas station as well. Clint Halftown had his lawyers working on Labor Day, sent the town a notice saying that obviously if there's a code violation there, worked with Pat today and Dick, and we're working on that type of thing. But I just want to let you know that it's out there, and it's open, and hopefully it's going to be a peaceful transition, but just keep your eyes open and ears. And my last point is, I do feel like it's necessary that I need to speak about the Budget Committee. If everybody remembers, the Budget Committee started after the budget process in November. There was, everyone thought back in November of last year, we should start the process earlier, and we should be reducing our dependency on landfill revenue. And the game plan was over the next 4 years through 2025. I reached out to Brad Jones and Susan Porter because they attended most of the Budget Committee meetings, if not all of them, and they were interested, and we started meeting after the first of the year. Okay, we work every week, and they agreed, so we started meeting in February. We met numerous times, including Bev, so that they could learn the process and get a better understanding of how things work. We met one-on-one with council members to get their input on what direction we should be heading. We worked on numerous scenarios, which all included various ways to eliminate landfill revenue from the operating budget over the next 4 years. This was not my brainchild. This was the direction of the majority of the board. So the challenge is, how do you eliminate $1.4 million of landfill revenue out of the operating budget? Okay? You can use tax stabilization funds. You can increase property taxes, or you can reduce spending. I've been working for 21 months to reduce spending without affecting public health and safety. I wanted to close Vince's Park, didn't happen. I initiated employee insurance savings. I initiated new employee benefits. I turned off phones that taxpayers were paying for and no one was using for 10 years. I set up using town-owned dumpsters instead of paying $30,000 a year for a private company to do it. If I was king for the day, which I'm not and I never will be, I would be spending my time negotiating with the landfill to make them more accountable, how to figure out the ways to reduce and eliminate organics from the landfill. Not just Seneca Falls organics, all of their customers' organics. I would be spending my time figuring out ways to partner with them for renewable energy projects and use every nickel I could get from them to replace 100-year-old and dangerous infrastructure. Moving forward with this committee, we provided this information to the board in June to be discussed in July. Some members of the board wanted more time to review the scenarios, so we set up a special meeting later in the month. The committee recommended option 3 as the best plan. This option would reduce landfill revenue by $400,000 in the operating budget next year, increase taxes 18%, and use tax stabilization funds. The board at that time said, let's step back, okay? No decision was made. The board at that time said, let's look what the tentative budget will be, and then we'll make decisions on how it will be funded, okay? That's exactly how it all played out. The budget committee provided different scenarios. Each scenario has obviously an effect on taxes, okay? But there's different scenarios. It doesn't have to be 18%. It doesn't have to be 3%. There's different scenarios that we spelled out at the pleasure of the committee to share with the board. That's all we did. No decisions were made. The following years would require a much smaller tax increase if we went with option 3. 18 next year, a much smaller tax increase in 2023, and a much smaller increase in 2024, and a much smaller one in 2025. When I say smaller, single digit, 5, 6, 4%, something of that nature, okay? And as I said, the board decided to wait until the tentative budget has been adopted, okay? Speaking of the tentative budget, we have to adopt the budget by October 5th, which is the date of our next board meeting, okay? No? Not adopt, but
we have to have a preliminary budget.
Preliminary budget by October 5th, thank you. Preliminary budget by October 5th. I need the direction of the board as how you want to do that. Do you want to start having budget hearings now between October 5th? Do you want the preliminary budget and then have budget meetings? I think we have to adopt it, Nikki, by November 25th. Does that sound about right? November 20th. Any thoughts?
Well, let's go back to the July 26th meeting. I got right in front of me for the special meeting and budget workshop. Mr. DeLalis inquired to how we stand to date with the budget. Mrs. Werfel replied, it's fine. We're in pretty good shape. She mentioned that $322,000 was transferred to the highway to operate, but it'll be paid back. She said the only thing that was increasing in the budget was $45,000 for Vince's Park. Mr. DeLalis stated that this is money that we had from last year that wasn't spent. Mrs. Werfel mentioned that we were under the tax cap by $425,000. They gave the scenario for the 18%. At that time, Mr. DeLalis stated, last year the board voted not to raise taxes. We are doing pretty good. He hates to say it, but he cannot see raising taxes. That's what I said. Only for minimal expenses incurred in this coming budget.
I agree 100%. But
people are out there thinking it's going to be 18%. Kyle Black's letter out there, it's all misinformation.
I don't write Kyle Black's letters. He doesn't confer to me. He's a private citizen. I don't read the Finger Lakes Times. I'll tell you why I don't read the Finger Lakes Times. Because we're the second largest area that they cover, and they can't send a reporter to a town meeting. And every Wednesday I get an email from one of the reporters who says, "What went on at the meeting last night?"
But
and I don't do Facebook. But the bottom line is, again, this year's budget, year-to-year spending is fine. We're not over budget here, we're not over budget there. But we have $1.4 million of landfill revenue in the operating budget this year, okay? So 2022, in 2023, 24, 25, you take the 1.4 million out over a period of time, the revenue's gotta come from someplace.
But we're taking some of that money, we got $9.5 million in reserve.
You have $9.5 million in reserves earmarked for special things. You can't take money out of the water and sewer reserve and put it into the operating budget. You can't do that.
I understand that. But people gotta realize, years ago I stuck my neck out when the taxes went up higher. And that's at 10.09 last year. But you gotta remember, Waterloo was at $20.07. Canandaigua 1972. Newark 1365. For the services our people are getting in town, they gotta be happy. I mean, we're doing fine. This is why I asked Mrs. Warfel back in July on how we were doing. And I still say, we don't have to raise the taxes that much.
You know, we talk about this 18% as if it was the only choice and it was take it or leave it, and it wasn't.
Absolutely not.
But it's the only one we talked about, and we haven't looked at the others. We haven't really talked about the timeline. We haven't talked about anything.
Absolutely.
And we'll get to some of that as we go through this year's budget process, but probably not all of it. So, I mean, this is a long-term discussion. The planning is being done for life without the landfill revenue. But it was like this was presented, and some people took it and ran with it as if it was endorsed and accepted, and the rest of us are sitting here saying, we said no, and that's not the only choice. That's not the only, so we need to continue the work, we need to continue the discussion, we need to look at the other scenarios, and we need to, and perhaps the final product will be something that hasn't even been thought up yet. But that work is being done, but we can't just stop with the one meeting when the 18% was basically rejected by the town board. We need to keep going.
We got to remember, we had asked, before you, asking
the good old
people for 10% every year for 3 years. All these departments got 10%. I think, Chief, what was your average now, 1.9 or something? For operating? Operating, yeah. But
I don't have it right here in front of me.
I think it was low, but I mean, you get 3 years of 10%. You can ask all these department heads.
You're preaching to the choir. I know. Trust me, I know.
No, I mean for the public, they don't understand.
I think they understand.
You try to do it best you can.
Absolutely.
And that's why I said back in July, I did not want to raise the taxes, only be minimal.
Okay, so we still obviously,
As for process, which was your question.
Correct.
The preliminary budget in the past has been,
A guideline.
basically, it's been what's been asked for.
okay,
That's what's.
and then the budget workshops you want to have after the October 5th.
After that, during October.
Let's do the same thing that we have always done in the past.
Okay. Okay, so in October, if you bring your phones and calendars with you, we need to start setting up some dates for this to happen.
Correct.
It's a wish list budget.
Yeah.
Preliminary
Yeah,
budget.
preliminary budget,
That's what
wish
we call
list.
it, the wish
Right.
list budget.
And we know darn well that we cut stuff out of that. I mean, somebody will ask for a truck and we say, no, wait.
Right.
It happens.
And if it needs to be done by October 5th. If it's done earlier, we can start early.
We're in the process of inputting it. Again, she's a one-person show.
Yep. But
And
if it's done, that's all I'm just saying, if it's done earlier, we can start early.
Yep.
You don't have to wait till the 5th to start scheduling.
no, as soon as It's all inputted from all the departments and everything, and Sarah gets that. I will send that out to everybody electronically, I think. Pressure's on, Sarah. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the town board special meeting budget workshop of July 26th?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And motion to approve the town board regular monthly meeting of August 3rd.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'm going to make a motion that we accept the dog control officer report for the month of, where are we here? Month of August?
We don't have one.
We don't have one again.
It's the,
Dogs are keeping.
No, she gave us 2 reports last month, so we'll
Yep.
probably get 2 next month.
All right, make a motion, we accept the zoning officer's report for the month of August.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
I'd like to make note on here, it's interesting that we received a fee for $1,200 from Cuba Nation for a permit, evidently to build a new gas station and convenience store where they tore down their old
Correct.
gas station and convenience store.
$1.2 million project, that's why it was 12,000. And basically, they have to stay within pretty much the same footprint of the old one.
No, I know, but I mean, it's pretty ironic that they get to, operate outside the law, tear down that facility, and then we're granting them a new permit to build another facility. I just think it's...
And it's ironic that they're complaining about the faction opening up on Third Street.
Yes.
Okay. Councilwoman Dyson, Parks and Recreation.
I make a motion that we accept.
we didn't vote on it.
Yeah, accept.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Dyson.
I make a motion that we accept the report for the Parks and Recreation.
Second.
Missy, anything to add?
Nope.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Avery, Highway.
Move that we accept the monthly report for the highway department as submitted.
Second.
Mr. Peterson, anything to add?
Yeah, executive order did come down from the state for the speed limits on Noble Road and George Road. So we can go ahead and put them signs up. Noble Road, from 89 to Lower Lake Road will be 30 miles an hour, and George Road will be at 40 miles an hour. So where the signs get them in, and get them up.
That'll be good news for those neighborhoods. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Churchill, Susser, please.
Yes, I move we accept the assessor's report as presented.
Second. Debbie, anything to add? Okay. Any questions for Debbie? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Pat, we'll get back to you.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilman Avery?
Move we accept the monthly report of the water and sewer department as submitted.
Second.
Joe, anything to add? Any questions for Joe or committee members?
Just, again, to pursue a long-term, or a short-term rather, an immediate solution. If Mike, you say it's going to start with the 4 of us, if we can set up a meeting. If we've got something.
We'll have
faster.
Peter here in a minute and we'll see what's going on.
All right, thanks.
Do we keep an official log of, where those areas are, what properties were impacted? I mean, is there an Excel spreadsheet that's set up, or?
I don't know.
So that, going forward in history, we can kind of refer back to.
Anything on your end, Jim?
No, I know about where the flood problems are, where I took you around to them.
I think that
But
might,
as Peter said, this pipe wasn't even on the map.
it might be beneficial. It wouldn't be difficult to do, but just a, address, time and date, what happened, what we're seeing. That way, when we go forward, you've got something you can refer back to. When people say, I think it was 4 years ago, I think it was 5 years ago. You got something that you can refer to. I don't think it would be a big administrative task.
Jim? Joe?
When we visit places like this, we have record at the office. We have work orders, and Sarah could show you anything to do with any properties that.
I mean, is there a log, like a spreadsheet?
No.
I mean, individual papers would be a pain in the butt in the future to compile. Does anybody just keep a log, I mean, when we have an event? Because that's what we're talking about.
It can happen.
Huh?
It can happen. There's not one right now, but it can
Yeah,
happen.
it would be fairly simple to do, right? Now, whether somebody keeps it up or not, if you like a web page, I'm sure it wouldn't get kept up.
Sometime when Sarah's not already wearing 5 hats.
All right.
But maybe,
Just another spreadsheet. There's only
but maybe it would.
one million.
Maybe I'll stop in and talk.
I can make one.
All right.
I just, it's not gonna be done tonight, but
No,
yes, I can
don't
make
need it tonight.
At least by Thursday.
it. 8 a.m.
9 a.m. Thursday.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman DeLeus?
I move that the town justice be accepted as presented.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman DeLeus, public safety?
Same with that, and move that the chief's report is presented.
Stu, anything to add?
Yeah, just a couple announcements. On August 3rd, we had a virtual National Night Out, which some of you are aware of, that we've had in the past. It's where law enforcement gets together with the community and the children and try to have positive interactions. This year we did a virtual one. Our agency did some taping and we did a virtual tour of our department, a vehicle, met some officers and things of that nature. You can go to our Facebook page or our website to interact with that. It's also in connection with other law enforcement agencies in Seneca County. So everybody kind of did their part. We kind of put it all together, did a video on it. So if you have any kids that would like to go to it, there's a little map and tour where they can win some prizes on that. So please encourage everybody to go to that. And on Sunday the 19th, Seneca Falls Police Department will be hosting a child safety seat check. What that is if you have an infant seat, a child that's in an infant seat, you can check that, make sure it's properly installed. Sounds pretty simple, but these seats are actually very complicated. It takes an officer 3 days of training to get certified in this, and then they have to recertify. We have 4 officers that are certified in that. We feel it's very important for proper installation of these car seats. If they're not properly installed, children can get injured. Please bring your car seat over to this event. If you can't afford one, we are providing some car seats at no charge for that event on Sunday the 19th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Seneca Falls Firehouse.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Beechcraft? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Peter, I want to come back to you in a few minutes. I make a motion we accept the MRV grant writing services for the month of July, or August, I'm sorry. Second, thank you. Any questions? Matt, anything to add?
No, sir, nothing to add.
Okay. Any questions for Matt? We submitted our TAP grant. Hopefully, if we're successful, that would be. Go ahead, Matt.
Nope, I was just going to say we submitted the pre-application and we received good comments back. Appreciate support from Barton and Judas to put that application together.
And that would be for phase 3 sidewalk program. If we get the grant, then we can make the decision to do the phase 3, which is the middle school, high school area, or down. But the deadline was the deadline. Okay. Councilman Avery, Seneca Falls Development Corporation.
We have to vote on this first. We have to
Vote on.
Oh, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Avery, Seneca Falls Development Corporation.
Mike stole most of the thunder. As he noted, the Ripples of Change statues, all 4 of them were installed this morning, and they're very tall. These women are 8 to 9 feet tall, I guess. It's stunning. The statues are magnificent. So again, across from Generations Bank. So stop by and look, and the signs are up. It's landscaping has to be done yet, but the statues themselves are just, they'll knock your socks off. And then the other thing is the fact that the DRI process has begun. Mike talked about the municipal projects, which is what we have responsibility for. But then understand that all the individual business owners who were awarded part of that, they're working separately with the state to move forward too. So everything is starting to move on the DRI. And as far as timeline concerned, that's a slow process too. Geneva right now is they're all torn up downtown because they're working their DRI from 2 years ago, I think. So it takes a while, but everything has begun as far as the DRI is concerned. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Peter?
Yes.
I make a motion, we accept the engineering report for the month of August. Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions for Peter? How are we doing, Peter?
I've got additional things I want to
hand out. Come right up.
Sure. And I apologize if I did not make my inbox on the email this afternoon, but two things I'm handing out. One is just a quick, when I say quick, it's a 6-page memo. It's kind of my take on what happened between the 18th and the 19th, well, so that's the 18th and 19th of August. If you know enough for you, I don't think.
I can shoot that.
The other one is a memo that I issued to the board back in 2018 regarding just, and Mike, you kind of hit on that topic, just private and full sources and legal to it. So a lot of what we said before, does it make sense maybe if I talk to the podium on some of this, or just
please.
Okay.
Please.
So certainly a lot of what you talked about before, Mike, you kind of, what the memo I put together, kind of, you hit the nail on the head as far as some of the issues. So I mean, to start with, just to put in perspective, the storm, one of the things we looked at is what kind of storm, what happened, what kind of storm, and what we can tell, we talk about flood damage, this was, I would, looking back in history, so we actually had some nearby rain data that went back to 1941. This was the largest rain event we saw. There's a station in Mudlock, about 3 miles east of the treatment plant. When I say 2-day, the rain event on the 18th and 19th largely happened over the course of the evening of the 18th and the early morning of the 19th. So it's about 10 to 12 hours is what the data suggests. 6.6 inches in Mudlock. It was measured last. We had measurements taken at the town's wastewater treatment plant, and I reached out to Seneca Metals as well. They had a weather station there. So that, those data, lower numbers recorded at the town's treatment plant at Seneca Metals, but overall suggests this was a generational type rain event. That being said, we use the terms 100-year frequency, 200-year frequency. We were right there. Coupled with that, not even on the same rain event, but on the 17th, which had its own, was a significant rainfall as well. That had some minor issues, but ultimately that left the ground saturated. So the conditions were right for a pretty substantial, a rain like that was really indicative for a significant rainfall event. So that was part of it. And just, after that, the day of the 19th, I did a tour with Jim and Mike regarding some of the areas identified for flood impacts. I've been talking to Joe the 17th, the 18th, 19th, and subsequent to that. We brought on one of our drainage engineers. He and Jim and I had kind of done a similar tour the week after that, 26th, to kind of look at some of the potential impacts. So bottom line is, we've all on here we're providing a summary of the areas that we've identified. Some of the facts in here are wrong, because last I had heard it was 80 some odd basements were pumped. Mike, you indicated earlier it's 100 basements were pumped out. Ultimately, there's two things. There's issues with the drainage impacts, flooding on Route 4, 14, 5, and 20, flooding throughout the village, flooding on some of the areas on the southeast of town, Noble Road, Farron Road, Garden Street Extension, that were flatter, not necessarily easy to put effective drainage in those areas. Ultimately, it comes down to, I think, the most significant impacts were in, former village. as we heard tonight with the, and I was there when we met initially with the residents at 37 and 38 Miller Street. So that was part of it, the drainage, the flooding that was realized in basements, the short-term flooding that happened on streets. Just as significant were the sanitary sewer overflows. So in discussion with Joe, I think a lot of the town saw an influx into the collection system that hasn't seen, I think ever, largely unprecedented. Couple things we look at that. I think number one, that road overtopping, flooding on Route 414, flooding on Fall Street. I think what we have is there's backlots, sanitary sewer pipes that are sewers that are located in ditch lines. There's 3 manholes in Benton Pond. Along with that, Benton Creek, Sampson Creek have collection gravity manholes that convey there, that convey to those. All those manholes are overtopped. Those manholes are really not designed to provide that type of protection. So there was a direct inflow event from manholes into the collection system that resulted in sanitary sewer systems that overtopped. Certainly the impacts were realized at the treatment plant as well with the excess flow tank. And I think Joe, had seen probably some of the highest flows he'd seen at the plant and since he's been here. Ultimately those are the impacts. I think looking at that, what I tried to find is what's an approach we can attack. So what this has is basically a general approach on, what can we do. Focus on storm drainage, and I think as we talked, as I heard, and we talked prior to this, the larger impacts really in the former village. What we don't know is there's a lot of old infrastructure. There's mapping that's 20 plus years old and it's inaccurate, and things have changed since then. So, what we're proposing is a stepwise approach. I talked to Jim about bringing representatives from Highway Department. Having an engineer kind of go through and quantify the actual conditions of the drainage systems, what's out there, basically as the first step to look at trying to quantify the problem. Then we can look at really modeling where do we have deficiencies in the system. So the next challenge is going to be when you do a drainage system, typically you're designing for, say, a 10 to 25 year storm event. You're not designing for a 100-year event. So ultimately, to provide that resiliency, because that's ultimately, that's with infrastructure, the new buzzword is resiliency and addressing weather changes, having the capacity to handle higher storm events. So the 100-year storm I'm referencing now is different than it was 10 years ago. I mean, it's just so it's acknowledged that weather patterns are changing, storm intensities are increasing. So what I have here is essentially, it's an approach we've got. The initial step would really be, someone walking through and just trying to do and it could be somebody from B&L, it could be somebody from the town, looking at trying to quantify all the drainage infrastructures, identifying the pipes that we didn't know were present is the first step. Ultimately, there's pipes that need to be inspected, but I think the overall approach, certainly for the folks on Miller Street, is that those systems really need to be eliminated. I mean, there's drainage culverts that date back to probably the 19th century. They're running to back lots. They're running behind. There's a large system running behind Miller Street, and there's north-south runs that run between Miller Street, Oak Street, and Chestnut Street. All of which are providing some critical drainage pathways for the system. So diverting those areas, I think, is critical. The village years ago had implemented some of that work. They had done some improvements on Rumsey Street. They had proposed to do some work on Walnut Street. That project never advanced. And there were certainly some other projects up on Boston Porter Street they had done as well. So some things had been done, but right now there's not a lot of documentation of what was completed by the village. And ultimately, looking at our approach would be really to kind of push forward and try to find, look at what's out there, quantify it, identify what pipes are, where they're flowing to, and then kind of provide a stepwise process instead of diving into a long-term, a large study. Let's kind of do this piece, or let's do this stepwise with respect to drainage systems. I've got recommendations here on sanitary sewer overflows too. I think the biggest impact, as I mentioned, was just simply there was inundation of manholes that were covered with water, that water was flowing right into, conditions that aren't typically designed, so. The town has, Joe has procured equipment that he can do to kind of help facilitate some rapid inspections of that. I think a lot of that, I would look at the town sewer department's expertise to kind of implement, work with them on looking at some of the areas that we know we haven't seen significant issues previous to this, Bridgeport Sewer District. Some of the
Do we have a phase 2 in mind for relining sewer lines?
We had done a project where we had, as part of the project, we did a lot more investigation during design process, during construction actually. So we had ended up putting cameras down, I think probably 15,000 linear feet of pipe. We did as much as the budget would allow. There's certainly areas, so we pretty much focused on the low hanging, well, the areas that were most critical. There's remaining pipes we've identified that could use some work. What we've seen since the project we did focused on really infiltration. So I think that's, and I'm speaking that I'll let Joe correct me, but what we've seen since then is that we don't see as much infiltration. The system tends to run drier, but what's evident now is this significant inflow, which right now to me is that's the larger concern on that end. So
can you check your schedule?
Anytime, yeah.
I mean, you're available this week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is This is.
All right. Well,
worth
let me.
For, so.
First thing tomorrow morning, I'm going to send out an email to you and Doug and Jim and probably Joe, and shooting for Thursday, hopefully sometime Thursday. You available in the morning on Thursday?
I think so.
Got 11 o'clock.
Would it be beneficial?
Early morning I am.
Would it be beneficial at all to reach out to the former village water sewer person?
I mean, Jim talks and Joe talked to the former people. Unfortunately, some of them have gone to the other side, but most recently we talked to Barry Work, Woody we talked to.
Pat? Yeah, because nobody knows the village like Pat. We ran it
until they fired him.
I got another question. Pat, is there any way we can make it allowed to get into to inspect houses to see what's illegally being done? Some kind of law we
Okay, short answer, no.
No.
To just say we're gonna go into every house to check your sewer inspection? Not likely.
I mean, is there a law that we can make or something?
I must have a reason to think that that particular house has some type of inflow, some type of significance.
So if somebody calls and says that they have a backup of sewer in their basement or something like that, we do offer the guys to go over and check it out.
Yeah, I realize that, and when the house gets sold, but I'm just thinking if there's something out there we can do that we can start inspecting places.
Well, and it'd be nice to inspect places, but also your room will fill up every month too if you start telling people they got to spend $10,000 to fix their illegal hookup.
Yeah, but then it's costing this one $6,000, me $6,000, that one $7,000.
So on that, one of the things, this is a memo we put together in 2018. So again, it's as Mike indicated, the implications of this are to go to a private house and tell someone you have to reconnect your sump pump, you have to disconnect your roof drains, which are now, that's on a residential house, it's not so difficult. It may be, simply just disconnecting downspout and letting it run into the ground. On some of these older buildings in town, when you have flat roofs, and a lot of times these downspouts run through the middle of the building. A few years ago, the town went through the process with Academy Square, and it took months and months and months to facilitate, to get the owners. Yeah.
Are you going to knock on Gould's Pump's door and tell them? All right, 9 o'clock too late?
No, that's good.
I'm good.
Does that work for you?
I'll be there, yes.
Oh boy.
Be there, be square.
Jim, can you make 9 o'clock on Thursday?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have something scheduled, you know, get a dentist appointment, or gotta get your nails done, everything okay? 9 o'clock it is, we gotta even.
Just your standard.
Okay. Thank you. We have 8 communications, ranging from minutes from the Heritage Preservation Commission, zoning board, et cetera, checks and deposits totaling $944,000, et cetera, a letter from New York State Department of State, so forth and so on. Make a motion to accept the communications for the month of August.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Under old business, Pat, your turn.
Okay, so, as you know, 115 12th Street is not closed this week. I've been in touch with the attorneys for the buyers, and so that is coming together. Hopefully we can put that to bed soon, and you'll know because you'll be signing the papers for the town.
We have to change the mattress on that. Wait any longer.
And then you got the next is the SMI license to operate. Again, that is still trying to put together a process of alternative dispute resolution as required by the community agreement. You know, all of which is, of course, we have a new wrinkle this month, and that we have the appellate decision that we saw in the newspaper to address on that. So that's also coming together.
Okay. Any questions for Pat? Thank you, Pat. Old business, Steve, security cameras, Veterans Bridge, any progress there?
Myself, Peterson, and Don Wood were slated to meet in August, but we failed to do so for a variety of reasons, so it's still a work in progress.
Okay. All right, new business. Any special events, Missy? None? Okay. Have a highway department resolution here. Whereas the highway department would like to purchase a 66-inch Bushcat HF attachment for our Bobcat to be purchased from Bobcat of Clear Lakes for $5,674, excuse me. The old 214 brush cap will be traded in for the sum of $1,200 to bring the price of the new brush cap to $4,474 and change. Whereas this brush cap attachment will replace the old brush cap that we now have. We use this attachment for cutting back ditch lines. The old brush cat is 2014 and the gearbox is failing bad. We use this attachment all the time. Now therefore be it resolved that the Seneca Falls Town Board hereby authorize the purchase of a 66-inch brush cat H-shaft attachment for the Bobcat of the Finger Lakes for $4,474.92.
Second it.
Thank you. Discussion. Questions for Jim?
You explained it to me, I mean, it's here, the old one's failing.
I hope we take better care of the new one. Use it half the time, make it last 14.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So carried. Have a resolution here from Water and Sewer. Budgeted items, resolution, manhole covers and frames budgeted. Whereas the town is in need of having 20 manholes on Fall Street and Nova Street repaired and raised. Whereas the Water and Sewer Department has received 2 bids for purchasing the parts of the project. Whereas FW Webb in Rochester is the low bidder at $5,447. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Seneca Falls Town Board hereby authorize the purchase of 20 manhole covers and frames from FW Webb for $5,447. Attached to the resolution is the invoice. Can I have a second for that, please?
Second.
Thank you.
Joe, I got a question. Joe, on Blair, they've shown as 20x7 heavy duty, and I'm looking at Webb's. Webb's heavy duty too?
They're the same mileage.
Okay.
Apples to set.
I didn't see anything for heavy duty. All right, thank you.
And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're purchasing them now and doing the work, contract work, would be a contracted work next year.
Next year, budgeting, have them put in on the state roads.
Okay, any further questions? All in favor, please?
The state commissioners.
No, Fall Street.
Yeah, the state does it, we supply it.
We're gonna bid out to the contract.
Oh, okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. Have another resolution here from Water and Sewer, a budgeted item. The town of wastewater department needs to replace a pump installed at the Noble pump station, whereas received 2 bids for the pump, and gatehouse pumps being the low bidder due to 10% Seneca Falls business rule at $5,701.06. Therefore, be resolved, the town board authorized the purchase of this pump from Gatehouse Pumps of Seneca Falls for $5,701.06.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on this for Joe? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So carried. A few months back, we had some people come in and talk about opting out. Pat provided you with some information from New York Towns Association. We need to have some discussion here right now about opting out of the marijuana sale starting next year. Because if we do, a whole series of things got to happen, like public hearings, etc. And the deadline is December 31st.
So if this is something that the board was interested in doing, you would adopt the resolution this evening to set a public hearing for the next regular meeting night, the first Tuesday in October. We'd advertise the public hearing. If you were so inclined, if it was adopted, if the local law were adopted at that meeting, it would be subject to permissive referendum, and we would advertise that it was adopted, and it would not take effect for 45 days. If during the 45-day period, if the town received petitions to challenge the adoption of local law, the question of whether or not the town should opt out would be subject to a referendum, would be placed on a ballot and put to a vote for the residents. So this, again, I tried to send out some guidance that I had found to be helpful here. The opting out is only for retail sales and on-site consumption sites. So you cannot affect personal use, you cannot affect possession, you cannot affect cultivation when that becomes allowable. We're not there yet, but that'll become, so it's simply for, retail establishments establishing in the community for retail sales and then on-site consumption. And that's all that you have control over. The board's action of adopting the local law, you're given this opportunity to opt out of the state regime. You would need to enact the local law by December 31 of this year. You can, if you were adopted it, you could then later on decide to opt back in if you were so inclined. But if you don't opt out by December 31, you may not opt out of the state regime after that at all. So I don't know.
And if we do nothing, then it just automatically kicks in.
Yeah.
But you lose out on a lot of tax money.
Well, my personal opinion is, I just think, it's been legalized. I'm 100% sure that the Cayuga Nation will be a dispensary. They will be in the business of selling marijuana. Our opting out will have no effect on that sale, okay? And I think we're treating our residents unfairly. They can't compete because we opted out, okay? So that restricts Seneca Falls citizens for opening up a dispensary in downtown Seneca Falls. So, you know, it's not my thing in life, but I'm older. So that's just my 2 cents.
I would agree with you, Mr. Supervisor. I think, I mean, the state passed all the laws, it's gonna be legal. I mean, it is legal. It's gonna be, you know, going into effect next year sometime. You know, we're a capitalist society. Let capitalism and the marketplace dictate how the sale works. And there may be some benefits from a revenue side. There definitely would be. So, yeah, I'm for letting the free marketplace take control.
Mason?
Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, the state's already said you're getting 4% of every sale. So you're talking about a $9+ billion industry, and it's an ever-growing industry. You go to FLCC now and major in horticulture and cannabis, botany, and cultivation and whatnot. I mean, I know it's going to be a pain for Chief Beamster and his men and women as things go on in time, but why would you turn down a dispensary that brings an average between $500,000 to $1 million a year, what you're gaining? Let's say make $1 million, you're making $40,000 in tax revenue off one dispensary that's now filling a storefront that's empty downtown.
It doesn't, just to set the record straight, it doesn't come directly into the town of Seneca Falls.
You're getting, the township's getting 4% of every dollar, from what I read on the state website.
It could be.
I mean, I can pull it up real quick. I don't want to obviously argue, but that's just what I was reading earlier on. I really hope.
He may be right, but I thought the county gets 4%.
The county, some of it trickles down. 4%, and then that 4%, that 4% is split 25% to the county, 75% to the townships and/or village or cities. In this case, it's just 8 townships.
Based on their sales.
It's based on their sales.
So now,
yeah. So now, if you got 3 dispensaries downtown, and making $1 million a year apiece, there you go. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but I'm not in the position that you guys are to say that.
I would be inclined to go the other way if it were not for the fact that what the Cayugas are going to do. And no disrespect to them, but it kind of makes whatever we decide moot. So I'm inclined to agree. We might as well. We're almost, because of them, we're almost, the appearance will be that we've opted in anyway. We might as well.
Now, my take is to do it, let's go to retail, because you all know I got a son in Colorado. He just flew back to Colorado, and we talked about this. And he says, Dad, I know the Indians are going to be selling it, but you're still going to lose a lot of money. You're talking about your landfill, you can get some tax money, good tax money. He says, I know that from Colorado. He says, I do IT work in these places, and they're making big money.
Don, anything?
We're gonna create more problems, I think, for Chief Peenstra. And what about our children? And we're gonna have to be more, you know.
Have to do more parenting for sure.
Yeah.
But the state's already done that. I mean, that's, the reality is that.
I know, I just worry, I have a 5-year-old grandson, you know, that I'm worried about.
Right, and those are considerations if I went the other way. But as I said, the Cayugas mean it's going to be here and here.
Doesn't mean I have to go with it, though.
That's true. That's
Oh, yeah.
I did in my farm class tour a cannabis field, and it was from here to Waterloo Way. And where the class was after touring the field, the smell, you think landfill smells bad? Where they produce and grow and crop cannabis is horrific. So I think that means bad.
Well, the Cubans have it out there already.
Oh, no. As I said, you know, if it, I think we're being unfair. I've had 3 or 4 citizens come to me in my office and, you know, we'd like to open up a store, you know. I just, all right, so, Pat, do we have to take this? No, right?
Well,
does anybody?
well, you could, but you don't need to. You don't want to opt out. You don't need to do anything. State law controls.
Yeah, let's do it if you don't mind.
Right. I move that the town decide to opt in to the state's cannabis program.
And I second that. Any further discussion?
I disagree.
Yep, we'll take that vote. So, all in favor of the motion not to opt out, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And anybody opposed? And that would be a 4-to-1 vote Councilwoman Dyson. So we have to do nothing at the moment, and everything is, okay. Yes, sir.
Take a look at your zoning codes.
I'm sorry?
You might want to take a look at your zoning codes, especially under adult uses. In order to, you might want to put further restrictions on this
Okay.
project, that's it. Because right now, it's within 200 feet for an adult use, you can't be within 200 feet of a hospital, a school, or whatever.
Church.
And it doesn't really talk about setbacks. It's restricted to C1 and industrial.
Okay, thank you very much.
Or sorry,
Can you,
C2 and
look at
industrial.
that for me? Thank you. Good point. As Dan mentioned, our committee continues work. Planning and Zoning Committee, we met last week. We're scheduled for in 3 weeks. So we've been focusing on the last few meetings, the renewable energy moratorium. And again, I encourage you, if you have anything in mind, any suggestions that you want the committee to incorporate, obviously nothing's going to move forward without the committee bringing to the board obviously the ideas of the moratorium and the restrictions and their recommendations. But if there's anything that you'd like to suggest or implement, I would suggest you get that to me whenever you can. Okay, I have a resolution to transfer funds to the Cemetery Commission. Whereas the mausoleum at Russellville Cemetery received water damage, and whereas the concrete needs to be repointed and saved, the stained glass windows, and whereas the town will have these repairs made, therefore be it resolved, the Seneca Falls Town Board does authorize to repoint the concrete to save the stained glass windows at the Russellville Cemetery, the cost of which is to be paid for a transfer from the contingency account A11990-400 to the Cemetery Commission A8810.407. That was second for that. I'm sorry?
Dollar amount.
Have a second, please.
A second if there's no dollar amount.
There's $20,000, I'm sorry. I know. Do you remember?
Okay, you have an email on it?
No. I believe it was 20, I sent an email out to everybody, I can't remember what it was, $20,000 or $22,000. Can you look at that for me real quick? You still have that, or no?
Well, since it's a transfer, should we just approve 30?
Pardon me?
Since it's a transfer, should we approve 30?
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed 30?
Yeah. I don't think that was necessary. I'm almost sure it was $22,000. Let's just put not to exceed 25. I know it's not more than 25. Right? So to the Cemetery Commission, not to exceed $25,000. She's got the paperwork and estimate and all that, but I think it was, I want to say 22. Have a second for that, please?
Second.
Any discussion? This is not water related to the storm. This is the deterioration of the mortar, and it's getting
$22,000.
pretty serious. 22,000.
The field is strong and needs immediate attention. The cost is $22,000.
And this is something that really needs to be done this year because it is unbudgeted. We could budget it for next year.
According to Kay Ireland and Mike Kelly and the people that came in and looked at it, it's a local gentleman by the name of Steve Sandroni. It shouldn't wait.
This year.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Just to give you an idea, Cuba Watershed Intermunicipal Organization has asked all the municipalities in the Cuba Watershed to budget money for their work that needs to be done. So every community north and south, east and west, that is affected, is budgeted, has been basically billed X amount of dollars for protection of the Pewter watershed. Total of $90,000 between all the municipalities, including Seneca County. Our contribution is $997 in 2022. It'll be $1,496 in 2023, and then after 3 years, after the third year, $1,995 per year.
Budget this year.
Nothing in this year's budget, but it'll be included in the 2022 budget.
Okay.
Something I look your opinion on, a lot of organizations and businesses and hospitals and school districts and municipalities are requiring mandatory vaccination shots or mandatory testing once a week.
Wait a minute, did we make a motion for that?
For what?
The Cuba Lake watershed?
No, it's going
to be in the budget for 2022.
You're just gonna put it in the budget?
So I'm looking for your thoughts, if something you want to approach, something you don't want to approach, just doing due diligence.
I think it's a good idea that they either be vaccinated or tested. I mean,
The state's going to get worse
yeah, it's only gonna get
with
worse.
this
then.
new variant.
And the county has put in place the testing program?
Isn't that
Has not.
a testing program?
Yes.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yes.
They have-
So an
Every Monday.
unvaccinated employee every Monday would go there and get tested.
Or could go someplace else. There's numerous places, but yes, they could go there.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it.
I mean, I know there's some opposition from some of our employees, but I try to explain to those people that have reached out to me, right now, if you go out on, if you have to be quarantined, the taxpayer is fitting the bill for your 10 days of quarantine, okay? There's still COVID laws in place where they don't have to use their sick time or personal time or vacation time. It's the taxpayers fitting the 10 days, actually 5 days, and then family health the other 5 days, type of thing. And, you know, I agree with what everybody says. There's no guarantee just because I'm vaccinated that I cannot contract COVID, obviously, okay? But the chances are a lot less. And we're working with the public on a regular basis. Yeah.
Who's covering, so like, I'm not, I work for the water department, water sewers, I'm not vaccinated, who's paying for it? For me to be vaccinated?
It
We're
doesn't
not
cost-
vaccinated, we're going to get tested.
It doesn't cost anything.
Okay,
The town will be
so that
paying.
being said,
Doesn't cost
where
anything.
would you send, like, we all meet at the water plant in the morning, where would you send the folks that aren't vaccinated?
Who are not vaccinated?
Yes.
Probably
County
to
health
meet,
department.
to go up to the county
So
office.
6:30 in the morning, we're gonna report.
No, it won't be 6:30, but it would be sometime.
So that's what I'm saying.
I would have to facilitate it what time it would be, yeah.
I understand that, so would that be up to the department head and where they send
Correct,
the 7, 8, whoever, how many people?
correct.
Right,
And
but
then, I mean, also moving forward as far as getting vaccinated for COVID, I mean, as a wastewater employee, I'm also more apt and prone to get hepatitis A, B, tetanus, but I'm not mandated for those shots. So why isn't that also discussed as well? I understand it's not as predominant as COVID is right now, but it's also something that, you know, we worry about on a daily basis too, but it's there. I guess I don't worry about it all the time, but I know it's the
You're not gonna
possibility.
transmit tetanus to anybody else.
I understand that, but I can transmit hepatitis.
That's the
Yeah.
biggest concern.
I understand that.
Makes
But you
sense.
can also get COVID via being vaccinated, not vaccinated. You can also die with the vaccination, without the vaccination. You have nurses walking away from their jobs and are mandating them to continue being a nurse, a job they love and enjoy.
And all your points of view I respect and are valid. No, you know, if the majority of the board wants to move that direction, and I've told them, you know, everybody, this is what makes America great, you know what I'm saying? If people don't like it, then I would, you know, I don't want this to happen, but I would suggest if you just can't live with the mandate, and then there's other jobs you can move on to, which I don't want to
It's
happen.
unfortunate that I'm the only one here speaking. I had other employees reach
No.
out and ask me, and unfortunately, I'm the only one that decided to.
No,
step
there's
up
other
and say
employees
something.
who reached out. There was other employees who reached out.
No, I'm saying here tonight, though. I am out of X amount of employees I spoke with, I'm one of, how many?
Mason, I can see your point. I mean, I worked at Goulds Pumps for 42.5 years.
Yeah.
And I was in warranty claims, and I was getting pumps in to pump whale shit and
Oh, I
everything
know,
else.
yeah.
And I used to have to get
Yeah,
my
I did too.
shots.
I was there 4 years, same
yearly,
thing. I worked there
right.
4 years, I had my.
Yearly, I
my
used to get shots, so I think you got a good point, Joe. I think we gotta look into this and see, because maybe they should be getting shots. I think it's the B shot, I believe it is. No, I'm just saying, I think, what do you think, Pat? Town?
That's a new one on me, but I mean,
I mean-
part of the mandate for the vaccine is that it is free, right?
No, I'm talking about,
Right, all those other shots,
Hepatitis
and,
B
you know,
is not
if we,
free.
and you, there's a lot
That's
more
not
moving
free.
parts in getting them available, and how much are they, and all that.
It is.
I was mandated at another employer
Okay.
for those,
Okay,
so it's not unheard of.
yeah, so I mean,
That's your decision.
I mean,
How about,
how can we make it?
I would suggest.
That's what I'm saying, how can we get this, so employees can get this shot?
That's another issue.
Well, they all-
Yeah,
I think
I
we
mean-
should deal with this, what we have right
Nobody's
here.
stopping them from
For the,
getting
COVID
these
vaccine.
additional shots, if they want to go get the
How
shot.
big
they
enough
get
to
them.
do business at
Yeah.
the end?
Stop
it right now.
I mean, as far as the legality, it's been tested in the courts, that's not an issue as far as the legalities of it at all, okay? If you want me, I can, for October, if you want to just put this on hold, something to think about, I can find out exactly hours of testing and the county can accommodate it, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how many people of our employees are not vaccinated, and we can't ask, obviously, for HIPAA purposes, so I don't know. I have no clue if it's 10%, 5%, or what it is, but I can...
Let's say it's just 2 individuals.
I'm sorry?
Let's just say at the end of the day, it's 2 individuals, don't need to know names. As a concerned taxpayer, let's say those 2 individuals go weekly for COVID-19 testing on their time or on the town's time, because as a concerned citizen, I don't want to be using my taxes to send somebody unvaccinated during work hours.
And I'm not going to say 100%, but it's on the town's time.
Well, I think
It's on the town's time.
you certainly.
I'm not 100%, but I'll check that out.
Well, just because they're working with, I mean, at the same time that these.
Right, but if you get out at 3:30 and you have a 3:45 or a 4 o'clock test, the test takes 2 minutes, it's not
Now
very
you want a
long.
full workday, and you could be asymptomatic.
What's that?
Now I just want a full workday, and I could be asymptomatic.
Absolutely.
So now you got 10 guys in the department that are out of work now for 10 days. So now you're out of the whole water department.
That's correct, that's why you should get vaccinated.
But you can still get the COVID being vaccinated.
But basically,
I have a family
but we would
relative
know because of the test.
So,
Yes, but now I.
If
work
you're
8 hours a day.
unvaccinated and asymptomatic, and we don't do this, we don't know. No, I mean, it doesn't get found out that you're asymptomatic until someone develops symptoms.
Absolutely.
So at least the testing is simply I mean, it's a provision to protect the safety of the guys who are working next to you as well.
I'm just
And-
throwing up.
Okay.
Nope,
Are we
that's
okay,
right.
if I get a few more details? I'm sorry.
Mason, do you guys wear masks at work?
What's that, Don?
I want to know if you wear masks at work.
No,
You
not
don't?
for the most part.
Okay.
And I'm also, I mean, you can't, if you want,
It's optional?
I mean, 9 times out of 10, I'm also not dealing with the public, I'm dealing with the same 5 guys every day. And I feel that I can trust the 5 other individuals that I work with, that they're gonna be smart adults and not come to work if they're not feeling well, or speak up and say, hey, not feeling well, I'm gonna go home, or I'm, gonna stay work by myself today.
But you just mentioned asymptomatic 2 minutes ago. Now you're saying, I mean,
I understand that.
you can have COVID and not have symptoms.
Yeah,
And
and also
spread
be
it to all
vaccinated
those
and have
workers
COVID.
who may get symptoms.
And I know 2 teachers currently that are vaccinated and have COVID and are sitting home. Actually, one being a police
Yeah,
officer.
I have one of my
being a teacher.
family who was vaccinated and got COVID.
Okay.
Right, very mild symptoms, but got COVID and was isolated for 10 days. Those people around him were quarantined as well.
That's
Yeah, that happens. But statistics show you are much safer if you get vaccinated. The symptoms will be much less than if you aren't vaccinated.
So you're.
That's what the statistics tell us.
That's what you're talking
That's
about.
what science tells us.
You're talking on a personal level though. So if I
No, I'm
contract it,
talking
are
about,
you concerned about my personal health at the end of the day?
well, we've got to make
I
a
am.
decision.
I am.
I'm for supporting this. I don't
That's
think we
one out of
should wait
five.
a month.
I'm concerned about everybody's
I'm
personal
concerned
health.
about everybody's
Absolutely.
health, not
Guess what I'm
just
concerned
one
about
person.
is the people, the employees that are vaccinated are gonna work a full 8 hours supposedly on Monday of every week, where the unvaccinated, by the time you drive up, they'll be
Good
working
point.
a 7 hour.
Good point. I gotta find that out, okay? Pat's not providing the legal advice on this. I will, our labor attorney is doing that. So let me find out. If you guys are okay to wait until October, is that all right?
I don't think we should
No, I
wait a
don't
month.
think we go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because I don't think that's, whether or not they can do it during the weekday, I think every attempt should be made to this.
I mean, it's once per week. It's
But-
not like it's every day.
Right.
No, I'm saying Monday, but I mean, once a week. Vaccinated,
You know, under the
longer
I
hours.
mean, we got a pandemic going on here, folks.
Yeah,
I
the
mean, we need to do all
circumstances
we
we're
can
in,
do to
I don't think
mitigate
we wait
this.
a month. So.
Okay.
There's gonna be employees that are not working as well that would be considered on that 1 day a week as well, so let's remember that.
Employees what?
There'll be employees that
That are
start
not
on
working.
Monday at 9 o'clock that are not working.
Right.
This-
I gotta figure that part of it out.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The only thing, I mean, personally, if you're not vaccinated and you don't have a legitimate reason why you can't be vaccinated, and you get infected, I don't think we should be paying them to be home for 10 days.
Well, I agree with you, but we don't have a choice on that one. That's the law.
It's the law, you gotta pay them.
That's New York State.
Well, it's their choice not to be vaccinated, but they still should get tested then. I mean,
No, but
that's.
if they get
If they're not gonna be
infected,
vaccinated, then get tested.
if they get infected and they are home for 10 days, personally, I don't think we should pay them, but if it's the law, you gotta pay them, you gotta pay them.
So what if they are vaccinated and get COVID and then you still have some?
Mason, again, I'm not gonna belabor this any
No,
longer.
I'm sorry to
Nobody's
cause
gonna,
this
nobody
circle.
here will argue with you that right now at the county level, 29% of the people who are contracting COVID right now, okay, have been vaccinated. 29. 61% have not been vaccinated. So the numbers are startling.
And the severity
And
of
as
it.
Councilperson Churchill said, the symptoms are a lot less severe, okay? And we're working with the public, and Seneca Falls is not the first place in the world doing this. It's happening all over, all over. Kim?
Wasn't there a ruling that it's not against HIPAA to ask if a person is vaccinated or not?
I don't know if that's the case.
Someone at the administrative level is gonna have to know anyway. They're gonna have to know
Yeah,
how
yeah.
many approved.
Haven't figured that one out yet. I'm gonna send them to the assessor's office.
I think it's the supervisor can ask, but, other employees can't ask them.
Okay, I'll work on a few details, I'll move it forward, I'll let you know when it's ready to go.
Just one quick question, is the testing free?
Yes.
Yes. Mike, she had a question, I couldn't hear her, I'm
Does it
sorry.
include, like, so is this just for the initial dose? Or is this for also including the booster shot thereafter? Because I believe they're also discussing the boosters.
The booster
correct?
6 months after your second shot.
Okay.
I didn't hear what you said, Keelan, I'm sorry.
The booster shots, does this also, this mandate, is this also going to include the stipulation that they also have to take the booster shot? And is this going to be a permanent stipulation that they
I guess
have to
that's a
have the
very good
vaccine
question.
every year? Or is
Sure.
this a temporary order while the pandemic
Yeah.
is in place?
Very good question. I gotta find the answer out to that as well.
I think at this point, we're just talking about what we have in our
Right,
hands,
what we
which is
have in our hands.
We have to make sure that that testing
the initial.
is free.
At the county?
Well, any town or, I mean, not anybody and everybody can get tested. You don't get tested because you want to get tested. You have to have somebody.
Some symptoms,
approved.
right, right.
So it may not be free.
Yeah, I'll check it out. As I said.
Vaccine is free.
Yeah. But we're in favor, once I get the details, we're in favor of pushing it forward. Let me get the details and I'll let you know, okay? Okay. I have a resolution to continue the professional service agreement with MRV Group as it relates to town zoning code updates. Whereas the town of Seneca Falls continue to evaluate and develop updates to the town zoning code and related ordinances Whereas the Development of the Review Committee was formed and tasked with such evaluation of the town code. Whereas the DRC has identified, acted upon, and instituted new code in the areas of parking, downtown residential uses, outdoor burning, and administrative procedures. The DRC, along with the guidance of MRB Group Government Service, will continue to identify and prioritize development of town code regulations and development procedures, including renewable energy regulations. Now, therefore, be resolved that the continued service agreement be authorized for the allocation of additional funds in the amount of $15,000 as outlined in the MRB scope and services compensation at the cost of which to be paid for, transfer from the contingency account to A8018.40 zoning updates, and be it further resolved that the Seneca Falls Town Board authorize the town supervisor to sign the MRB Agreed Professional Services Agreement dated August 26, 2021. And a second for that, please.
Second.
Okay.
Why are we transferring funds out of contingency for this and not waiting for this to go through the budget process and be budgeted if we choose to do so for next year?
Because it was never part of the budget line item in 2021, okay? We can certainly do that, but obviously the work of the committee is going to stop until 2022.
Well, what about getting a prorated amount to get us through to the end of the year, and the rest of it gets budgeted for 22?
Can do that also, I think.
That's up to Matt, but, you know, if 4,000 will cover us for the rest of 2021, let's approve 4,000 out of contingency, and the next 11, the other 11 goes into 22 budget. But
Yeah.
that would be.
I don't know the answer.
He's standing.
The way we've worked it is, and I appreciate Dan and others being here from the committee, the way we've worked it to date is we just work on an hourly basis. So we come in, we meet with the committee prioritizes the work to be done, and then we go to work on it on an hourly basis. And we can certainly meter that, moderate that to manage the resources as effectively as we can through the end of the year, and then put a budget number together for next year.
Because the 15, the first 15 is pretty much covered as for a year's work, right?
Yep. Yep.
Is that correct? Yeah, I mean, I thought we appropriated 15,000 last summer.
We did it this year.
It was this year.
Yeah.
In the spring, so 15,000 probably got you about 6 months.
Yeah.
So we got about 3 months left, so 5 is probably enough.
And a lot of the work, obviously on the moratorium, but the application process has all been streamlined and cleared up, and all become user-friendly and everything. So, yeah, we can do that. Matt, can you do that for me?
Yes, sir. I can provide an update.
Is the ice cream truck out there? Because if there is one, I take a twist, please.
Perfect. I'll get two for you.
Thank you.
Our stuff's always the most boring. That stuff's a lot less exciting than marijuana or vaccination.
So do we table this until October? Just not act on it?
You can table it, and Matt, you'll get me a number, please.
If you please, or if you prefer, if you wanted to approve the 5,000, we could do that and just mark up the contract, or we could put a new contract.
I guess I didn't understand we were being billed on an hourly basis. I thought we paid, we were. I thought we paid for, is this for grant writing and codes review?
No, not grant writing.
The grant writing?
Codes review. It's the work they're doing with planning and with the ZBA.
And this is what Dan talked about when he made his comments earlier. This is
So the grant writing was $15K for a year.
25.
That's services, right?
25.
25?
Yeah, I don't doubt the validity of the work. I think it's important work, but I'd like to see us just pay for the rest of 21 if we can.
Okay, so I'm going to amend the, I didn't get a second anyway, I don't think. Did I get a second on
Yes, you did.
I did,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So I'm going to make an amendment to the resolution to read, authorize for the allocation of additional funds not to exceed $5,000 is outlined in MRB's growth scope and sequence services. Can I get a second for the amendment? Second. Okay, any discussion further on the amendment to the resolution? All in favor of the amendment to the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now, as I said, the resolution will be not to exceed $5,000. Have all in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I have a resolution to transfer funds from mulch to copier. That's pretty interesting transfer. Whereas the current copier is more than 10 years old and is in need of replacement, now therefore be resolved that Seneca Falls Town Board approves the transfer of funds from the playground mulch line item CR 7141.200 in the amount of $6,200 to the copier line from CR 7020.201 for the purchase of a new copier. Can I have a second for that?
Second that.
Second.
Questions for Missy?
You got my email?
Yes, thank you. I will check that out.
Yeah, really good, because every municipality that does typically goes with it. I don't really know what it is, but check it out.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. You skipped over Kate.
I would suggest next year, or this right now, as you're finishing up the final touches on your budget, that we might not have to put quite so much in the mulch line. You know
It's
what I'm
only
saying?
every few years too. I'm not sure why it was that high. I think we actually paid that much last time when we got the mulch, but we certainly didn't need that much, so.
You
We
skipped
will
by
definitely
Kate.
adjust that.
I have another resolution here.
Mike is
I know,
right.
Dave, I know. I want to get rid of the resolutions. I'm losing the crowd. Resolution supporting additional 2021 funding for organics recycling program. I'm sorry. No, I got to do the other rec center one, Parks and Recreation. Resolution, Parks and Recreation preschool fund transfer to summer play program, Seneca Falls Town Board meeting September 7th. Creative Expressions preschool funds transfer for summer play program. Be it resolved that Seneca Falls Town Board approves the transfer of funds from preschool instructor line item CR 7140-405 in the amount of $1,400 and Creative Expressions line CR 7140.107 in the amount of $2,000 to summer play staff. Line item CR 714.101. The transfer of funds will offset the additional expense of staffing due to two separate locations for our summer day program. We did not offer Creative Expression preschool this summer due to COVID-19, thus leaving funds unused. Have a second for that, please.
Second.
You, any questions for Missy on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution supporting additional 2021 funding for organics recycling program. Whereas in an effort to remove organic waste from the traditional landfill bound garbage stream, the town of Seneca Falls has begun our organics recycling program. Whereas the pilot for this program in cooperation with local residents has been very successful. Whereas New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has approved the existence of a duly authorized municipal waste transfer station behind the town highway garage. Whereas all other preparations are in place to expand the program. Whereas the funding already approved by the town board will not support the residential organics recycling program. Now therefore be it resolved that the Seneca Falls Town Board hereby authorize the additional expenditure of $4,000 to support the organics recycling program through December 31st, 2021. And a second for that, please.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Is that budgeted?
No.
Not budgeted, so that's why coming out of the contingency fund probably, and going to that, and then the game plan was in 2022, the organics program, both commercial restaurants and residential will be part of the overall budget. Any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'm gonna
Okay.
oppose it. I'm going to oppose it.
Hold it. I'm
I
sorry.
think we should wait until January to start.
That's 4-1, Councilman Churchill opposed. Okay, so I'd like your permission to make it a little more consumer-friendly for people calling the town offices in most places in the world today in the 21st century, you call a number and there's a menu. Town clerk, press 1. Water and sewer, press 2. Town court, press 3. Assessor, press 4. Town supervisor, not working anymore. Okay? There is a menu, so it's very simple. Okay. Now people call my office looking for courts, or somebody calls town, they don't know what phone number, they don't know anything, and it's very confusing. The other ironic part about it is our phone system, thanks to Councilman Churchill, is able to do this without very little issues. It can be programmed and done very, very simply. So, thoughts? Or am I crazy? Did you get the phone system didn't come under when you were here? I thought.
Yeah. Well, I thought it's been changed since then, hasn't it?
Not the actual phone system.
It's not
no,
still
that
that
hasn't
phone
changed.
system?
Yeah.
So it's through First Light?
Yeah.
First Light, okay. Yes, it can be programmed to do that.
No big deal?
I see the advantages. Sometimes I hate getting them when I'm on the phone, but I'd rather talk to a person. But I see the advantages.
Well, you're going to talk to a person, right? You're just going to do
Sooner or
it
later.
You're gonna press it.
directly, right?
Yeah, directly.
You got to press a button. Huh?
Yeah, make a selection.
Oh, it's
The key is to keep it short and sweet.
As long as I don't get a voicemail.
Long what?
As long as I don't get a voicemail.
No problem.
spam. Or a spam. You
I
don't.
get a lot of town clerk calls, and then sometimes, because zoning's here early, they call Nikki's office, and Nikki's not here till 9, so they don't know who else to call besides me, because I'm here at 7 o'clock in the morning, so I filter a lot of court phone calls, town clerk, zoning. Sometimes the assessor I transfer over to, but pretty much everybody knows the water department's phone number.
That's going to be option 9 anyway.
Yes.
It'll just be anybody who's in the building.
52 will be fine.
Will this include the police?
No.
No.
Please.
Wouldn't affect the police. You have your direct number, right?
We do.
But then you have a menu?
I mean, the sheriff's department does have an automated line because it's not, our line to our station is not meant to be emergency. So like the sheriff's department in Romulus, they have that automated system to direct you to whatever division in that sheriff's department you'd like to speak to, whether it be jail or civil or such, because they are not meant to be emergency lines. We're strictly pushing to call 911 when you've got an emergency.
So should it be an option, but with that caveat?
With that caveat.
If this is a real emergency.
It could
dial
be
911.
because we do receive some emergency phone calls into our office, but they're not supposed to be coming in through that way.
911.
And the sheriff's department line strictly states when you call there, if there's an emergency, hang up and call 911 immediately.
All right, I will check with Jason and see if we can do that. Okay.
So we're voting.
Yeah. I mean, don't need a motion or anything. Additional.
We got Pete.
Yeah. Which one?
Pete.
Pete, Indian Road Pump Station in Fort Smith, right?
Yep, that's what you heard over there.
Open right here, right? So, I'm going to let Peter explain this a little bit. This is for the Kingdom Road Pump Station.
Seeker.
We're going to be doing a new seeker type of thing. So this is the designated town as the lead agency in the seeker type of thing. Go ahead.
Correct, yeah, so, seeker for this project, as everybody knows, has been going on forever. Seeker was originally enacted in 2015. At that point in time, the project was defined, well, it wasn't defined, it provided alternatives for different configurations. So ultimately, we looked at, the history of seeker. Pat and I have been talking about that, and given the age of the original seeker designation, I think the agreement was, let's just start the process again. So essentially what this is the town reestablishing itself. There's really no deadline for seeker processing environmental reviews. The town is reestablishing itself as lead agency for seeker, so the process involves the town via resolution designating they intend to serve as lead agency for the environmental review process. And as part of that, there is a letter that is sent to interested involved agencies. They include DEC, potentially affected property owners nearby, ESC, which then we may reach out to ESC for funding, and then New York State Canal Corporation, Department of Ag and Markets, any public agency, private entity that's potentially affected by the process. They will get a letter identifying the fact that the town seeks to serve as lead agency. It includes a Part 1 environmental assessment form. That Part 1 form doesn't provide any determination. It simply just identifies the potential environmental impacts. Most of what's in Part 1 form is largely what was passed in 2015. The primary difference is the project has been defined, better defined. So there is now a specific line called out in the secret documentation. So the start of the process is the town passes a resolution identifying itself as the intent to serve as lead agency. Letters are sent out to seek out all the interested involved agencies. Would they want, letting them know the town wants to be lead agency, and then those parties have the opportunity to object, comment on that process. Once that's done, the next step is a Part 2 and 3 EAF process, which has already been completed for this project. We essentially just would re-review it. Some of the things that came up in the prior secret process were just with respect to some of the endangered species that had subsequently been field work had been done. So all that stuff will be kind of covered in the next document. So really this is just the intent to start secret. I don't know if I'm...
So yeah, so this is just a designation of this board as the lead agency. We send out the notices at the next board meeting. The board, we will go through the Part 2 of the secret forms and review all the analysis that will be provided by Vaughn and Judas. And then
don't we have to make a formal resolution for that to happen? To become a lead agency?
So yeah, the process.
That'll be in October?
No.
Yes.
Tonight
is the intent.
Yeah, tonight is to designate yourself as a lead agency. Now, then you seek comment, and you're seeking other people, other groups, if they want to challenge the town being the lead agency. If somebody steps up and says, no, listen, we need to be lead agency on this, and then that kicks off a whole process. But this is the beginning of that, to designate yourself as a lead agency, and then put the notices out there.
Okay.
So the resolution is next third page from the end.
And personally, I don't think we need to read this entire resolution. Probably the name of it and the resolve. Because nobody's going to,
the irony of this, Peter, last night when I was reading this at home, I know my cat is getting the white-footed mouse. I was looking at the animals.
Okay, so, I'm sorry.
Just that with the defined route, this particular route is going to have less of an impact on any particular
Any that came up with these potential illegal travel was pretty much not part of the process.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to declare the intent of the town of Seneca Falls Town Board to act as lead agency for the Kingdom Road Pump Station project. The project is classified as a Type 1 action and defined by the State Environmental Review Act. Resolved that the supervisor of the town of Seneca Falls and the town board, together with the Seneca Falls attorney and Barton and Judas, are hereby authorized to take all actions, serve all notices, and complete all documents required to give full force and effect to this determination. This question of the adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly put to vote, and upon the roll call, the vote was. Can I have a second for this resolution?
Second.
Town Clerk Greer, could you take a roll call for this? Yea or nay, please?
Yes. Dave DeLaylis,
Yes.
Steve Churchill,
Yes.
John Dyson,
Yes.
Mike Avery,
Yes.
Mike Ferrara.
Yes. Thank you. That's in your pile, Nikki, because there's some stuff there that I have to sign off on, right?
Form that needs to be signed, and I'm gonna come by tomorrow and kind of work with Nikki, make sure
Okay.
everything's done.
Thank you. Can I make a motion to pay the water and sewer credits, please? Have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Sarah or Joe? Maybe Sarah. All in favor, please say aye.
Actually, hang on.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, very quickly, this first one, $2,500 for a leaking toilet. I mean, is that reasonable? It is?
That's a smaller one, to be honest. We've seen
That's
higher
smaller?
than that.
Really? Higher than that?
If it leaks for the whole, if it's running
Whole
for the
quarter.
whole entire quarter, it could be bigger.
90 days.
90 days is a long time to have water constantly running.
Okay, thank you.
We ever get those new water meters, we wouldn't have that.
Right, no.
I can catch you sooner.
Catch me sooner, yeah.
Any other new business for this group?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to bring back up when Mason, he left. Joe, more shots for the guys. Reading the sewage and stuff.
That would be another thing for Mike to pursue with attorneys, I would think, first.
I don't. I'm
What
sorry.
other vaccines might be available to our employees,
okay.
I
given the
think
nature of their
What's
work?
the one, I used to get the rules, it was a beach,
I forget the one, it was, there was a couple of different ones, and it was.
hepatitis,
It was
it's like a
test on the
hepatitis.
skin.
Discuss that with
Hep A, Hep B.
Any other new business?
We have to talk about
We have to talk about
Boiling code.
some, so do you wanna go into executive session, or?
Yes. I know.
Dick's got
Well,
some-
first of all, what we're talking about,
Dick has something.
Go ahead, Dick.
I'm just curious about, anything has to be done about the results from my exam with,
Oh.
Oh, make him a.
What has to be done?
Boy.
yeah,
Yes, he
my
has to
position.
You didn't get my congratulations card?
I got that, yeah, thank you. But,
I filed the paperwork with the county, civil service,
Yep.
right?
Do you have to pass a motion to?
It has to be,
Motion to.
oh, you're right.
provisionary right
So
now.
was he, is he provisional right now for pending the test?
He was pending the outcome of the test.
Yeah, so we can remove the provisional designation.
I will make a motion to make the town zoning and code officer, Dick Staberski, permanent based on the successful completion of his civil service exam. Have a
I'll
second for that?
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Even though he scored a 66, I still. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Great, congratulations, officially. Okay, Steve, and the rest of the board, Steve will mention, we met with our environmental lawyers, David Howe, earlier this evening, an attorney-client conversation, and this board has to decide if we're going to move forward with an appeal from the appellate court that came out last week, August 30th or 31st, SMI's lawsuit with the town. So I'll open it up for any discussion.
so we have 30 days in which to file that request for appeal. So that would be pretty much late September. Personally, what is the next step? The next step would be to ask the highest court in, well, actually to ask the appellate court.
First, you're asking the appellate court that has already ruled against you, and then if they, and then you're asking them to.
If you can
appeal
move
further.
to the highest court,
Yes.
and they get to give you a decision whether they will allow you or not. And then if they don't allow you, you can then ask the highest court if they would hear your appeal. So that's really what we've got before us.
And again, this is just a procedural Article 78. This is not, the actual case has not gone to the courts yet.
This appeal involved the motion to dismiss. So the merits of the Article 78 haven't even been approached at this point. So this was motion to dismiss was initially granted, and then it was overturned on appeal.
Right.
And so we're still at the motion to dismiss. If you either do nothing and allow the appeals decision to stand, the motion to dismiss has been, overruled. So then we go back and we begin, in
Mechanics
earnest,
of the
the
Article
Article 78 litigation.
So I will make a motion, I'll put forth a motion that we do authorize our attorney to go forward with the appeal.
Second.
Discussion. I'm not in favor of it. I think we've spent a lot of money up until this point on Article 78. This has been going on for multiple years, $58,000 so far, with no resolution, okay? The work at the next level is not going to be, I would say, real heavy work. So I don't think it'll be a very expensive appeal, but I don't know that for sure. But if it's $5, it's too much as far as I'm concerned, because we're going to have to focus our resources on the real lawsuit at some point. And secondly, it was a 5-0 decision at the court, the appellate court. And 5-0 decisions very rarely get pushed up. They do sometimes, but if it was 3-2, 4-1, I'd feel a little bit better. My 2 cents, I will support whatever the board wants to do.
I still have concerns about the money, just keep spending money on top of money. That's a lot of money that we've already spent, and we've gotten no further ahead.
Well, we still will have to, the Article 78 is still in play, and that's gonna cost some money. If we win this appeal, that Article 78 goes away, correct?
Correct.
Which saves us money. So we might spend a little to save a lot.
Or we may spend a little to spend a lot more.
Well,
All realistic scenarios.
yeah, we may spend a little, right, and lose, but there's a chance that if we spend this little, we might, the Article 78 goes away, and that's a tremendous thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the landfill's got about 10 other lawsuits that they're getting ready to file against this, so we aren't going to be out of the woods for a long time, I hate to say that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. That's 3-2 carried. So I will contact Attorney Howell tomorrow and tell him to move forward with the appeal. Okay, special order today, got a motion for adjournment. I think, we got to pay the bills, yeah? Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
A lot of bills to pay.
A lot of bills to pay.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion to adjourn. You didn't bring the bills.
They're in my copy.
Yeah, I know. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Folks, have a good night. Thank you.